Okay, have your person see if it's there now.
Breaker 1-2, mic check. Do you copy, Rubber Ducky?
6772.
Yes, those are the last four digits of the account number.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, if you're ready, I'll move forward. I do want to just kind of update you again. I've been in contact with Brittany Benning from the State Auditor's Office. We are resolving the last issues as far as the treasurer is concerned and our annual reports, trying to make sure that those are all corrected. I have uploaded all bank statements, all treasurer's reports, all control sheets to Brittany from 2019 and 2020. She has all of our documentation. So she doesn't even have to come down here and get it. Everything has been scanned, sent, and she has it. The issues that I am working on with her have to do with a couple of our loans, just the way they were reported in the annual reports as far as separating principal and interest. There's two schedules that they show up on, a Schedule 1 and a Schedule 9, and we just put in the whole amount into our Schedule 1, and it didn't really match up with what came out in Schedule 9. There was no discrepancy, it's just that one was interest, one was principal, and it didn't reflect in both. So we're gonna get that squared away and a couple other little questions that she had. But really, they were all called yellow flags. There were no red flags on our annual reports. They were just variances that she wanted to know, well, here you reported this number, and over here this number is a little different. Why isn't this matching up? So there are no discrepancies or no problems there. They just want to know. Like, we had a number of accounts, for example, in 2019, when Janice and I were working pretty heavy on this annual report, we didn't know what we were doing. So it kept changing the names of things as we would try and upload them electronically, and so we essentially took all of what were called general accounts. Some of them were reserve accounts and different things like that, and they all got dumped into what was called general account to make the numbers work like they were supposed to on the state auditor's website. Well, this year, when Nathan and I and Janice and everybody else that was working on this thing, we decided it would be better, since I didn't know if I was going to be treasurer again, to really rename everything as it appears in our treasurer's reports. So the next person coming along could put in the numbers in the correct spot with the correct name, rather than dumping it all into general or dumping it all into, there's like 3 sewer accounts. There's 3 street accounts. There's street construction, there's sewer bond redemption, sewer bond repayment, and we dumped all the sewers into just sewer. Well, this last year, we separated them back out. And so since there was a name change, that brought up a yellow flag with the auditor's office, and that's what she wants to know about, and those are the kinds of things we're dealing with. So there's not any concern about any problems with the books. It's just making sure that everything is squared away and neat and clean. We anticipate having that all done, obviously, before year end. That is her goal and my goal as well. Next thing, I'm going to get through this as fast as I can, guys. The LGIP, I'm sure you're kind of curious at how that's going. It's been a long process to get that thing up and running. Didn't realize we had to create an automated clearinghouse through US Bank to actually transfer the money. That process was going to take 6 to 8 weeks, and so we were going to lose all that interest. So I pushed the process through with a one-time wire transfer from US Bank, and we got the thing set up at the beginning of November and transferred money out of a number of different funds to the Washington State Local Government Investment Pool. So it's squared away. It's all been in there for a month. And in order to do that as well, there were some other investments that we had cashed out clear back in 2019. So I updated all of those balances and went all the way from June of 2019 through November of 21 to make sure all of our cash balances and investment balances were correct. We were holding cash in our checking account, holding it separate because it had been in an investment. And I was afraid that that was dedicated money in some way. Well, after some investigation, it was just money that we had put into a CD and cashed out. So it has all been moved into our LGIP, and it is now earning interest. Okay, so all of those balances have been redone and set up, and our books are in great shape. We should be ready really here at the beginning of the year with some nice, easy beginning balances for all of our funds, and things are looking very, very well. I did put in front of you an October Treasurer's Report and a November's Treasurer's Report. The 8.5 by 14 is the Treasurer's Report. It's huge. I'm sorry that the writing is so incredibly tiny. We've all talked about this before as to how this report works. In essence, you see the beginning cash balance column right after each fund. Then is a receipts column. So everything that comes in for the month is in receipts. All of our utility payments, anything we get from other government entities, all that stuff comes in and is receipted into the Treasurer's Report. Then we have ins and outs of each fund. So you can see that there are what are called Interfund Transfers, IFTs. For example, if you are looking at October, there really weren't any ins in October, other than into claims clearing and payroll clearing. That's just where Jerry goes to pay his bills. And all of the outs are where we pulled all the money from the different funds to pay for our bills and our people's paychecks. That's the out. And I realize it goes in and out, and it kind of looks a little backward to you, but that's just how it works. Warrants redeemed are then things that have cleared on the checking accounts, previous IFTs and so forth. And then you'll notice other disbursements is where we transferred money into the LGIP in October. So you'll see money coming out of all these different funds in October, and they wind up in the purchased or acquired column, about 3 columns over, for investments. Okay? Yes?
So in the October, the purchase acquired column,
Yes.
there's two cells, cemetery endowment and the total at the bottom that are just the hash marks because I think the cells were too
narrow,
Yeah, is that?
but the numbers are in there.
No, they're in your report or whatever. But I mean, is it of interest to us right now to know what that number is or anything?
Well, just know that 70,000 plus that number equals $506,000.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
And at the bottom, it's just the total of that, all of those LGIP investments, which is actually, if you look in the little box in the bottom right-hand corner,
Yeah.
it does give the balance of the LGIP at $730,685.69. That should be the total of that column that's just too wide to show up.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay? You'll notice that we do have a couple of accounts in the red. One of them is street is in the red because we wrote a check for the street project up by the park, and we're waiting for the money to come back in from the government entity for that. So
That's the
that'll take care of
reimbursement
itself.
from TIB.
Once that comes in, that red will disappear. I just
Is
would
that
rather.
expected this year?
Yeah, that's a question for the mayor, and he's on that.
It'll be a wash when it comes in.
Yes. Yeah, you'll notice in the out column there was a $56,156 out, and that's in essence what that was. That took us down into the red. If you're following 101 Street across the columns. So once we get that 156 back, we go back up to about $500 in the black, and everything's fine. Street always kind of sits that way, but we also have still have $60,000 left that in the budget has been scheduled to be transferred that I have not transferred yet. So by the end of the year, there should be roughly $60,000 in that account in the black. We just have not transferred those funds. I'm kind of leaving them there in the red just for my own purposes so I can remember, hey, we got to make sure we get that check back, because at the end of the year, if that's still red, Nathan and I are going to be scrambling so we can get that fixed before I transfer the money over. I just wanna make sure we get our money from TIB. And it's the same thing with street construction. We paid a bill out of there, and Jerry and I haven't had a chance to sit down yet. We think it probably should have just come out of street, and we'll get that fixed and update the records by the end of the year, so there are no funds in the red. Everything will be in the black.
And that's also a reimbursement.
It's a reimbursement, yes. Thank you, Nathan. I forgot what that was. Okay, so that's October, and if you notice, there's a second page, and I'm gonna explain what we did. I know I'm taking a lot of time, fellas, and you got a busy meeting, but I think you had a lot of interest in this, and I wanna make sure you understand. Page 2 has to do with the LGIP, this little 8.5 by 11 on the back, this guy right here with the color. Okay, it shows you what our initial our principal deposits were on October 30th, October 31st, November 1st, roughly. It went in November 1st. But out of the money market, you can see we took $183,000, and then in essence, I pulled out of each fund either what had been there as an investment before, or what had been, since it was a reserve fund, I figured why let it just sit there and not earn any interest. I pulled all of our reserves and put them into the LGIP so that they could be earning interest rather than just sitting and doing nothing. Okay, the reason there is that brown color up there is that the money market account is normally every month, the interest off of that money market, all 70 cents of it, was divided between all of those different funds. Literally, there was $183,000 that we were getting 70 cents in interest in every month. So I knew the percentages, what those funds should have been as far as the percentage of that 183,000. I broke it out into what funds that interest went into, and so there you can see then current month ending balance, that long one out that's not colored, has essentially what every fund has in the LGIP, and then its share by percentage. I'm just working my way across the columns if you're following. Okay? So that's October. And that's part of the reason you didn't get much of a report, is I was trying to figure out how to, oh, here, I'm sorry, Joel, I didn't give you a set. You can get that, Joe? Yes, I do, I've got another set back here. Thanks, sir. Tim, do you want this, or you want
Excuse me?
Do you want a set of these books, or are you okay?
Oh, I'm fine.
Okay.
There'll be a quiz afterwards.
There will be, yeah, I know, and I talk too much, my students tell me I need to shut up sometime, I just go on and on and on.
You're doing
Before we
fine.
move on,
Yes, sir.
a question. Line 106, going all the way over to the right, we have a bunch of.
Yeah, that's what Mr. Slack was just talking about, was my cell was too narrow, so it doesn't actually show the number, but it is there. But in essence, this number and this number add up to be that 506,000 right there.
Okay.
And then the total is also too wide, but this same total is reflected right here in the 730,000 of the LGIP. So I just didn't get my cells wide enough for the number to show up for you.
Okay.
Okay, but these totals are really what you're after right here. This is what's in each fund, including its investment.
Good, thank you.
You bet. Okay, November, pretty straightforward. We balanced out. Really what I wanted to show you in November then is to turn to the back page for your LGIP. So I created this little chart. We earned $51.70 last month as compared to 70 cents. So it's a little better as far as the interest goes. So you're looking at about $600 a year rather than $6. Yeah, 12 times 7, yeah, about $8,
72,
$9. Anyway, we should be doing better than that. The interest rates aren't real great right now, but it gives us some time also for the next administration if they want to look into CDs or bonds or anything like that, but at least the money is not just sitting not earning interest. The way the LGIP is set up for us, we can pull the money out anytime we want. It's a one-person move by the treasurer. All it takes is one person to move the money, and it just comes back out of the LGIP into our checking account at U.S. Bank. In fact, the LGIP is actually a U.S. Bank fund through the state. So it all stays within the same bank even, ironically. But So you can see how that all broke out by percentage, each fund, what they earned, and what the investment balance is. So we went up by $50 this past month, which was a nice thing to see. Okay, so even funds like current expense now are earning a little interest. Water, sewer, garbage earning a little interest. Our reserves are earning a little interest. And accordingly, you know, we're getting now $30 a month additional interest into cemetery endowment. And since it just stays in there, we'll build interest on our interest. I'm not pulling the money back out and dispersing it into the funds. I'll just keep track of it into the LGIP and actually let it earn more interest by earning interest on interest. Any questions?
Well, you did a good job.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you
thank you.
for doing this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for the
Breaking it
extra
out this way.
sheets. Yep,
Um,
absolutely.
Couple of quick things before I go. We're still working on bias. Please understand, I'll accept all the responsibility I can accept for the difficulties with bias. But I'm gonna tell you right now, I love their customer service, they're fantastic, but they were completely irresponsible in how they set us up with Janice. They basically gave us the system, told her how to write checks and how to record bills, and sent her on her way. They did not set up any beginning balances in any funds. They set up one checking account, and we had 3 at the time, and just turned her loose. So she was learning the job, because she had just started on her own. She was learning the program. I thought, you know what, I'm not messing with this thing. I'm gonna keep my system going so I don't screw something up. And as we got further and further away, I did not realize that they hadn't set any fund balances up to start with. So I am currently working on reconciling all the bank accounts through bias from 2020 all the way through 2021. And that's kind of hard to do when there aren't any beginning balances. So all of that has to be put in and redone. And I'll be honest, I'm a procrastinator, and when something's uncomfortable and I don't like it, I avoid it like the plague. And so I've been avoiding it. Now, because I'm a procrastinator and I avoided things like the plague, I'm now in a pinch because I did not sign up to be reelected. So here's what I'm going to propose to the council for your consideration. I will allow my name to be put forward for a 6-month appointment for city treasurer to go through so that there is a May treasurer's report and the next annual report is done before I resign this position. If you want someone else to be treasurer, you appoint them. That's fine. I have not been reelected. I have no claim on the position. If you've got a better candidate, that's great by me. I'll give them my stuff and I will help them out as best I can. But if you don't, in your wisdom, if you choose to, I will extend this for another 6 months to get this thing in order and keep us where we should be so that we can get through another annual report.
Generous offer.
Yes.
Is that a
Fantastic.
volunteer or paid position?
I'm sorry, if I'm the treasurer and I'm putting in these kind of hours, I'm gonna take the pay. If there's no pay,
I just want everybody clear.
I'll be honest with you, when my wife got this job years ago, after Mary Alice had passed and then Carla passed, and they handed it off to Rusty for a month, he came in with a paper box full of scraps of paper, set it down in front of Tara, and walked away. That was the extent of our books. It was in rough shape. Things hadn't been balanced for 5 years at that point. And so we have put in a lot of work over the last few years, and I don't want to do that to the next person. And that's what I would be doing if I walked away January 1st. I would be dropping a box of just scraps of paper, and that's really, really unfair. I don't want to do that. So I will leave that out there. I'm done with my report. I'm going to head home. But you guys, if you get down to the end of the month and you're feeling like you need to appoint someone to the treasurer's position and you don't have somebody better, go right ahead and appoint someone if you have them, but I will allow you to appoint me for another 6 months. But whatever the date of the council meeting is in June, that's it. That's the last day for me. And I would suggest that you get somebody else appointed somewhere around April 1st. Because I would love to have 2 months to walk them through all this stuff before they gotta take off. It is not something you just pick up overnight.
And to clarify, 2022 is what you're talking about.
Ah, you're funny guy, yeah, not 2023, not 24,
You shouldn't have
Who?
clarified.
Yeah.
6 months. Okay,
Well, thank you, Mike, for
Yeah,
the
thank you.
presentation.
thank you.
One question, Mr. Conrad. So you said there was no red flags
Correct.
on the audit.
On the annual reports.
The annual reports. Okay. So my understanding then is that in general, that means that short of those fund discrepancies and trying to make some of the numbers match up, there's been no concerning findings.
She has expressed no concerns to me.
Yes.
Yes, as in you agree.
No,
Okay.
I think what he just said is true,
On the treasurer's side,
from the treasurer's side.
Okay.
there is still a whole other side.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Question, before you go. You mentioned you have to go back to the beginning of 2020 to reconcile or come up with beginning balances. Do you have enough information to allow you to do that, do you think?
Yes, between my treasurer's reports and the bank statements, yes, I can do that.
And when did you start as treasurer? I've forgotten.
Paul passed away at the
19.
end of March in 19. So I served for 8 months, and then they brought Bias on board. And then Janice got hired and Buddy quit.
That's right. Okay, thank you.
And Tara started in 12.
Mhm.
And she finished in 19, right?
It was, yeah, I think Paul had only been doing it a few months.
Months.
Yeah, I think he'd been doing it 3 or 4 months and then passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
Okay. See if I can find my spot again. We've skipped around a bunch.
You wanna go back to the
That was an addition to the agenda.
That was, I just,
treasurer's?
yeah, I wanted to get,
Sorry for the long-winded guys.
no, I like it.
You're fine.
Do you wanna go back to the minutes then?
Yeah, I think so. I want to start. It's definitely easier to go down the agenda in order. So, or else I'll end up forgetting something. So yeah, let's go ahead and look at the November 22nd regular meeting minutes. That is what is on our agenda, and we can do the 29th minutes later.
And we have that noted for the record of what we need to do for the bank
Walter,
account.
Yeah, do we want to run through wording it, or I mean,
Yeah.
Jerry and I can obviously
So
figure
here's
that
what,
out.
here's what I propose.
Okay.
It says money market
I'm
account.
not an official member.
I'd say located at US Bank.
Well, it says input from the treasurer.
Well, that's
The money has been transferred to investment pool. The treasurer is seeking council permission to close the U.S. Bank money market account ending in 6772,
And just
period.
Yep.
Councilman Slack motion for the account to be closed upon depletion, so it's just close the money market
Right.
account at the U.S. Bank money market account
Okay.
ending in 6772.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we don't have to put located.
I would just do it, well, I think it's just right there,
That'd be
the
the-
U.S.
either
Bank
way.
money market account.
I think that's what he needed for.
Yep. Yeah,
they-
and it's pretty easy. I don't think we have to restructure the whole paragraph. Okay.
Well, there's not too
Close the
many
US
terms.
Bank money market account?
Yep. Ending
We got empty.
In-
seats.
6772.
We already voted on this and he just needs clarification, or the bank has wanted
Yeah.
clarification. It's stated officially in the minutes, so it can be done.
Mayor, should Justin's statement,
Could I hear the final wording on that again?
So it says the treasurer, so the second sentence, the treasurer is seeking council permission to close the U.S. Bank money market account ending in 6772, period.
Got it. Thank you.
and in the next sentence, I'm just wondering if you shouldn't say something like the aforementioned account, instead of just the account. Be a little more specific.
Oh, after it says Councilman Slack motion the aforementioned account?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could.
It's under the same thing, so
Yeah.
I would,
I think it's in the same paragraph. I'd be okay with it. How it is. Okay. Entertain a
Give this man a view.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll
Okay.
second it.
And we already, when we came in, the typo on Marge's name.
So these are different. This says Marjorie, actually.
So I don't know.
It's already been changed from what was sent out
Yeah.
earlier today.
Yes, so it says
Okay.
Marjorie here, and it says Marjorie.
Is that the latest copy, Jerry? I'm guessing it has Marjorie on it.
This is the one
Okay.
he just printed and gave out to us tonight.
Okay. So that's already been fixed then.
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion by Justin, seconded by Steven. Any more discussion?
I believe it was seconded by David.
Holy smokes, not doing too all night.
I
Okay.
wasn't gonna-
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Levi, are you still with us?
I am.
Okay. Did you get in on voting on the minutes?
You got an eye from me.
Okay. Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Okay. Let's move on to bills. We had so you guys got a few.
29th, special meeting.
It's not on the agenda. You
I
got
added it in the additions,
Okay.
right? And I said, do you want to do that right with that? And you said yes.
Okay. 29th, November 29th, 2021 special meeting minutes.
Did we state
No, go ahead.
the approval of the last minutes with corrections?
Yeah,
That's
as
what I said,
amended.
yeah,
Yep.
yep.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And are these minutes also only printed?
Yes.
That was short, right? Everybody has
Yeah.
one page or? Yes, sir.
I'm going to abstain since I wasn't here, so I'm not going to make the motion, just so you know.
Okay.
Steven. Do you want to make the
Does
motion?
anyone have any questions or anything that they see?
I move to approve.
Okay. I have a motion to approve the November 29th special meeting minutes.
I'll second it with discussion.
Okay. We have a motion and a second discussion.
Under public hearing, 2022 levy certification resolution 230/2021. Okay, this is the levy certification resolution. I guess we don't have to put resolution, the same number on the very first paragraph after the levy certification resolution.
I wouldn't think so. I mean, that's up to you guys if you want to change that or not. I see you're
Does it
asking
feel
whether
so
we
if
need
you-
it in the first
I think
sentence.
I think if you didn't have it here,
Yeah,
then you would want it there. But since it's pertaining to this specific
right.
thing, I think I would say you're fine. But
Okay.
that's my opinion.
Everybody agree? Yeah, then I'm fine with it then.
Because in here it says, Councilman meant to accept resolution 20 this. So it specifically say there too.
Okay.
We're gonna vote on the minutes for the 29th, before we do the bills.
Yeah, we're going over those 29 minutes right now.
Yep.
Do you have any questions on them, Peter?
No.
Okay. We have a motion, second discussion. Unless we have any more. All in favor of approving as read, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Alright,
Aye.
as presented.
Levi?
He wasn't here.
Oh,
I will abstain, I wasn't there.
okay.
3-0.
Yeah, 3-0.
2.
3-0-2.
Yes.
Yeah, 3-2.
No, 302.
Yeah, 3-0.
3-0-2, yeah. Abstain.
All opposed, no. All abstentions signify by saying aye.
He said he was gonna.
Aye.
Okay. Passes
Sorry, I'm
3-0.
muted for quite a bit of this, guys. You don't want to hear what I'm doing right now, so.
Okay. All right. Meeting minutes out of the way. Go on to bills. So Jerry, you want to explain a little bit on the bills? You just I think you had a couple extra documents in there that you'd.
Yeah, I'm more or less making sure I have signatures on each of those since I did several different iterations there. I just wanna make sure that everybody's aware of all the money that's gone out.
So I just have a question.
Okay.
So on check register, it says 10:30 to 11:30. That's a full month.
That's
And-
payroll.
Payroll, and then the next one is 11:15 to 11:15 is mid-month.
Mid-month payroll for full-timers.
So my question, the first payroll is it's a full month, right, I guess?
That's
Yeah,
that's just the report though, correct? Those dates are just
You see what I'm talking about?
yeah.
This says 10:30 to 11:30.
Yep.
And then this is 11:15. Like, that's half month, but this is this is like a full month. So I just didn't know if that was.
yeah, the 10/31 would be the end of October. So that would cover everything for that month.
Oh yeah. October, and that's one of the ones that you were just want to make sure that you could get signatures.
You see the way the payroll's working, we have the full-timers. They go from the 1st to the 15th, the 16th to the end of the month. But when you run the end of the month report, it picks up the part-timers as well as the last half of the month for the full-timers.
Okay. Just so you know, the report title though is inconsistent. So some of them are the full month and some of them are part months. So it might be something you want to just check into.
Well, I don't title them, I just put dates in. And Bias does the rest.
One more question, and it may
Yep.
be, so on the back pay and even going forward, are we asking for somebody to show us that they're paying for medical expenses out of pocket in order to reimburse them?
We haven't made that decision 100%. No.
What are you suggesting?
I'm just asking, I was just seeing because,
I think we should.
Yeah,
no,
or we just,
that's what a company, I mean, my company won't give me money outside, not that that's right or wrong, but that's a benefit, quote unquote, a benefit,
yes,
in air quotes, of whether, for a company is giving you, whether you choose to take it or not is a different thing, but I think that, well, maybe it's
it turns into a bonus or a raise,
correct, so if they're not gonna take it, then so be it, but,
yes.
I don't know if that's the right place to do it, right, if this is the
Yeah.
right place, but,
That
maybe,
is something
maybe
to
for next,
backward.
maybe for the next meeting.
This
And the
dang computer went into
reimbursements
some
should come
kind of,
before the payment. Or the receipt should come before the payment.
The receipt if they're paying for health
Yeah,
insurance
if they
somewhere else.
went to the chiropractor and paid $200, bring the receipt to me and I'll reimburse that as a medical expense.
But then you're becoming an HSA.
Yeah. We don't wanna do that.
Well, we have, January 1st is coming up, so if this, what's done is done,
Mm-hmm.
and we can look going forward. But
Yeah, I think we should. I think.
Stephen, this thing went into some sort of
reboot.
something, and you got a big hammer to hit it with?
No, you have to wait for it to come back up.
It's updating. Okay.
Okay,
so
the
that's
one.
fine.
There's one. Let me see if I can get the correct document.
I do have a question too.
Okay, good.
So this is claims, I guess. It's
Yep.
it's 2 pages. So it says
Jerry?
Springbrook something.
Holding company.
Yeah, it says claims. It's number 925. Springbrook Holding Company for $11,997.
Yep, that is the annual subscription, and then that is also the money that
Oh,
was.
Bias.
Yeah.
They changed their name.
Oh yeah.
That's
Sorry,
all. No.
I forgot. I see it quite a few times a week. So yes,
No.
that is the new name for Bias.
Yeah. No.
And there is some extra money in that, so that is our subscription plus the training that we approved. Well, right after Jerry started, that check is also in there. We missed that somewhere. Got lost in the shuffle, and they said, "Hey, are you gonna pay us?" And we said, "Yeah, we can." But that's why there's an additional money in there.
And then number 920, Homey Pump or Electric and Pump.
Yeah,
Is that what the alarm was going off?
Yep, that's the one I was gonna talk about. So there is a pretty substantial bill there from Homey for our favorite place, the sewer treatment plant, the replacement of a pump down there, and some other installation and miscellaneous things that went along with it. So I'd have to look at that to remember exactly how much of that was the pump, but
It's probably about $7,000.
it was. In fact, it was more than it was last time it got replaced, if I remember right.
And that was the pump that you had said that we had a heads up that it was gonna be a problem? When
I
chaired
believe
that
so,
meeting?
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, those are two of the same. But that's the big one that I wanted to talk about. So
I move to approve the bills as presented.
Second.
okay. Any more discussion? Questions?
We do them all together?
Yeah. I would like to at least. Okay. Motion on the floor and second. All in favor of approving the bills as read signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
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 I did.
Okay. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you guys. Sorry, Stephen, I must be deaf.
No, it's fine. I think this math is harder to hear too.
Okay.
Nathan,
Yeah.
the pump was $4,500.
Oh, it wasn't. Not as bad. Okay, thank you. Next on there we have Mack fire truck. That was just I was gonna put it under mayor update, but we've seen it on so many agendas. I figured we couldn't go without it. I've spoken to there's 3 people actually interested, and haven't heard from 2 of them. The guy that was most interested or that I continued to talk to is on vacation. He said that he will likely come get it after the first of the year, so it is not 100% for sure. So I tried to nail it down and have him come get it, get the money, and get all of it over with. My time for having it sold this year is slowly running out. But anyways, so there's a good chance that it will be quote unquote next year before it's sold, but he still sounds interested. He said it was fine. I just want to give a quick update on it, let you know where we're at. After the last meeting, I wanted to
Do you have anything in writing? Like,
from him.
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, $3,500,
Yep.
was it? Okay.
What did the lawyer say about the questions that we had outstanding from last meeting?
I didn't think it applied because I couldn't talk to. I had no other interested parties, so I haven't touched base with them. Should we get to that point though? Definitely can't ask them.
There's a question from the public.
Sure.
Is it still out there on the market?
I mean, so in talking to this guy that said that he would buy it, I said, okay, we're good. We approved it, ready to come get it. He said if it's still there by the first of the year, on my way back, I'll come look at it and go from there. I mean,
So legally, we're not bound to him because he hasn't put no deposit on it?
no,
He's
we
just
have
going to
no
hold
money
so
on it yet.
You can still buy
So
it.
it's up for bids yet.
Yeah.
I mean,
I feel that way. Yep,
Yeah.
and he was in the same. Said if it's still there. I mean, it's not one of those things we're not gonna hold it, but he was still gave me his word that he wanted it. Should it be here when it gets here?
Is it still being advertised on websites?
The one that I have it with, it's still being
And
advertised.
he was the last one who expressed interest.
Yes. Yep. And actually, the other person that there's two others that I'd heard from that I have yet to hear from them again. They were interested, and then I went to talk back with them and haven't heard anything. So,
But really, only 3 people have inquired.
oh no, 25 people have inquired, but
Oh.
only
Seriously.
yes,
Well, yeah,
yeah.
meant to say that.
Yep. Serious offers have been made
Right,
from what
right.
3 people. Yep. So that was just an update. I didn't know if you guys had any more questions. Told Jess and I would get it sold this year for sure. And now it's scaring me that maybe that's not going to happen. Budget stuff. So I have quite a few things to talk about. Do you guys have any questions right off the bat that maybe we can touch on as some of the things that I want to talk to? I sent some documents out, the budget included, and obviously some wage stuff, a wage schedule, 3 different wage schedules actually. And I don't know, I just want to open it up to general questions before I kind of peck through my list.
Does the recent developments of our public works employees change anything, do you think?
As far as the budget or the pay stuff itself,
Planning, budget purposes of wages next year.
I think wages it could, and also maybe the training line item in our budget. You know, we have some for the public works as well as council and staff, and I think that should possibly be adjusted to account.
And then also did you leave Casey, I saw it in the minutes that you guys discussed leaving Casey Manji on there.
Correct. I was so happy, I mean, not because of Casey, but just so that we didn't have to pay that expense to take it off there, and it went right back on.
Okay.
Should be, what line is that? 305. But yes.
My 305 is different.
I have some questions about the wage sheet, but
Sorry,
I'll
hold on.
wait until you get there.
Okay.
Yeah, you were late. We talked about it.
There you go, you got a table.
That's fine.
I'm
As long-
sorry, I've adjusted it since then. Let me get back to the one that I sent. The lines are different.
That's fine. I don't care. I mean, as long as it's, I just don't know what's, and so I didn't know, well, part of me saying that is,
Hey, bonus.
does any of our conversations that are gonna happen later, is it better to have, I mean, are they pertinent to happen now that, as they could potentially affect this at all? And if you say no, that's fine.
I think it is. They do go hand in hand. So we have an addition for the agenda that was Public Works 2 resignation. Our second employee sent his letter of resignation in today. Immediately effective. So yeah, I think it will have some play on how these,
Okay.
how the wages are determined for at least those two positions. Did you guys have any trouble understanding those additional
Sure.
tables that were sent out on the wage sheet? And those are none of those are set in stone. I mean, I just wanted to get them out and some ideas and some proposals, but
So I think this is great. What happens if one person has all the, like, so you have the certification spread across two. So if somebody came to us with the water distribution manager, cross connection control specialist, and then
had the whole.
so could that person effectively then have all that, or are you going to try to keep it split, or?
My personal opinion is to keep it split, but that doesn't mean it has to be that way. I racked my brain over this for a couple of hours. Exactly what you're asking. Do we want people that are both certified in certain things or not in certain things? I mean, do we want to pay for 2 Group 2 operators? Should we have them here? That's a tough call.
Is it even feasible that one person could do both roles? Just from a 40 hours a week point of view?
I don't know everything that goes into both of them. I would say that Scott had held Group 1 and his water both.
Because really the Group 2 only has to oversee the other person who doesn't have to necessarily be actually credentialed. I mean, they'd like them to be, but as long as the Group 2 person is overseeing it, because that's what obviously even Casey's at now. So,
yeah.
Well, I guess other thing is that these could be mix and match though. Somebody might have a Group 2, and then they also have the backflow assembly tester, which I guess one of these is water, one of them sewer. Is that right? So the chances of
Yeah.
them, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we would get somebody that way, but there's definitely there's a chance to have that happen.
Sure.
If you have 2 people show up that has all of them, are we going to pay
No.
both of them for all the certifications and endorsements?
That's fine. How did you come up with, and this isn't, this is just a question of, how did you come up with the hourly rates for the different
One and two.
certifications? Like all the way, are those things we're doing now?
No, some of those were based off of what our employees were currently. So it was trying to match, like we went through earlier this year when we.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, I guess to answer your question, it is. So
I
we
just want
had
to make sure that, because we said earlier, we're now starting to see employees that aren't coming from Harrington.
right.
And so if they had a CDL in Spokane or in Reardon or Airway, somewhere that's bigger than Harrington, are we somewhat competitive so we're not training them and then, potentially them?
Right.
So do you think that's a relative,
Compensation for that.
somebody else mentioned, I don't know who it was, about the CDL somewhere else. It was in relation to the city, and it was maybe the council member, I don't know, I was talking the other day about it, and they said that if it was the school, or they asked somebody else that had CDL, and they said it was about $1, or, it was Joe had mentioned it, he'd talked to one of his trucking outfits, and about $1 an hour or something, so
That's the federal rate.
the federal
The
rate.
federal going rate is
Well,
So, which is fine. Again, I think it's
Yeah.
important if we can, because Stephen and I have talked about this a lot, probably both at council and not at council, about trying to be as competitive as we can
Sure.
with stuff.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. We obviously had our workshop and made a lot of progress on some of it, but some of it even as far as the starting wage, that's why you guys have an $18 starting wage sheet, a 19 and a 20. I think somebody made the point of, well, if we get somebody that has nothing and has no experience, you know, do we want to start them out at $20 or $21 an hour? If don't have any experience doing, they graduated high school or came from some other job and have no experience, where does that person want to start versus somebody that just doesn't have any certifications but has relevant experience in other areas? Maybe they have maintenance and some other stuff. And maybe we can restructure that base pay to a percentage. I mean, that's just, I want to know where we want to start. That's essentially going to affect what the certifications are worth. Because in the end, it has to fit in the budget to work.
Well, just as a barometer, in the paper right now, Lincoln County Public Works, is it a bridge crew or road, something, road?
Yeah,
bridge?
probably both. There's a bridge.
Step 1 and 2, but their range is, it works out $21 and some change to $25 and some change on their steps.
Yep.
And they require from the get-go, out of the chute, a Class A
Yep.
CDL, not a B or C. The Class A is considerably, well, quite a bit higher than a B. So, I mean, you could use that for a barometer. I mean, I don't think we're far off, but some things we have to require. So, do you compensate for that?
Well, Walmart right now, I think, is hiring, is a retail, like starting at $18 an hour. With, and Amazon over in Airways, with no certifications, no skill. I mean,
Nothing.
say skills, but it's not the right. It's not.
Yeah,
But
no,
you can start with limited experience and no certifications for $18.
Sure.
And that's not even the night shift. So that's the challenge that we're facing. I mean, we as our city, but then the rest of the.
So I think we're right there. I mean, if we go start 18-ish or whatever, without the qualifications, like I said, the county is a good barometer for us. And a CDL Class A, they're starting about at 21, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and change.
The
So
only-
we're not far off.
The only thing I would say, is if you have to convince somebody to go work in a sewer plant, is that
We're gonna what?
it's a sewer plant
Go ahead.
to go deal with human waste.
Well, they
If
probably
I could work at Walmart, I mean, maybe that's the same. I don't know.
But that's where that certification license
They
comes
wouldn't
in.
go for their level 2 certification if they
I
didn't
mean, if
wanna-
you're starting here with no experience, and then they say, "Well, I got to do this, and I got to have whatever, whether Group 1 or Group 2," that's a huge hourly increase.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm just saying, if you picked a person up off the street and said, "Yep, I'm going to train you," I mean, again,
Sure.
I'm not right or wrong or indifferent. It's just so.
Well, I need some numbers to put in this budget. You saw the budget that I sent out last has red, and it's personnel benefits, capital outlay were red, and wages were red. So the capital outlay, that's equipment stuff. I think we've talked about that. I can probably nail that down and be happy with those numbers.
Well,
Wages,
personnel benefits, I think we have to, and if that's where we decide right now, which we talked about earlier, is if you're not going to take the city's
insurance,
insurance, I mean,
I'd say you're on your own.
So your plan then is to not have city employees?
I think we
No.
provide a good package for them, and if they choose not to use it, either they have supplemental from a wife or a spouse, fine. But there's no way for us to verify, for one, that they're actually using that money to get insurance. They could just be supplementing that as a raise.
and the way it's, if it's just back pay right now, you're taking taxes out of it. That ends up being a wage. The school right now requires you to take their insurance unless you provide evidence that you're covered under your spouse. And it might even be different than that, because some people, if they had spousal coverage, they still have to take it up there. Like I know from the bus drivers. So, I mean, again, I don't know of any employers that give an option to just pay you to not take their insurance and then to do what you want with it.
I would have to back Justin up on that one.
So if you're
Personally.
gonna require it, then you're willing to put out $1,900 a month to cover it.
Now, we're talking an employee, not their whole family.
That's an employee.
It went from $800 to $1,900 in 1.5 years.
It has gone up.
It was $811 when we made this decision to go to $600.
Yeah, I think it's eight.
over 900 now.
Okay,
For
but that's, I
2022.
mean, so again, the council, either this council or parts of this council previously agreed to cap it at 600 to limit the city's risk of increasing insurance rates.
And we could change that part too, as far as I mean,
We used to cover it. We used to cover 100%
Yep.
of the city
Yep.
employee. The city covered it.
The only question I would have to all this, and I know this is probably beating a dead horse, but what's the AWC, the state insurance, compared to Premier or some of the
Premier
other
Blue Cross or whatever.
Blue Cross.
I think
Are
the
they
stuff that
way out of
Jerry's
line?
found, and you can correct me if I'm mistaken, but they're comparable. They're similar.
The only thing that we get in the pool, it's kind of like the LGIP, is that it's all the average, right? So if we just had a 3-person like right now, and we all had people, and they base it on age. So if you had 3 60-year-olds, your insurance premium is going to be up here. If you have 2 25-year-olds and a 60-year, I mean, it just, so right now we get the benefit of having 200 and something cities with all their employees in this big humongous pool, that it doesn't matter
What the age is.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's that's a wash.
Right.
But I'm not saying that what Primera offers is the same, is that what we're charging, but that's the supposed benefit of going through that, but,
So I guess 2 decisions need to be made at some point. One, it can be unofficial for the budget purposes, and then it will need to become official. But to pay or not pay them, whether they have our insurance or not, or proof of insurance. And then the second one is that cap per month.
well,
Are you guys comfortable with staying at that 600? Would you like to see it go up, see it go down?
I think one thing we learned from this so we've had 4 employees now that have taken insurance, or that have had the option to take insurance and not. And at least with the last 2 people, it was a big, I don't know how the current clerk feels about it, but the other 2, the previous public works, we even probably Scott before that, because he, I think, was subject to it for a while. I'll say it didn't work, but it was a pinch. I mean, they got pinched.
Right.
So it just takes the burden and the onus to the city or to the employee. If we're not paying, I mean, and how to be competitive, is that a competitive thing? Again, and we offer it to them, maybe, if you offer it to them at full 100% of the employee, then,
More palatable to them.
and then it's take it or leave it. If they don't take it, then it's no skin.
Sure.
But I still don't know how we have to figure out something. Because otherwise they're going to get taxed anyway, so it ends up being a bonus or additional wage if we just pay them. I mean, it's not pre-tax basically. Like my insurance right now that I pay is all pre-tax. I mean, the employer pays some, I pay some, but it's pre-tax.
Right.
But that's because I take insurance type of thing. So,
Yeah.
but otherwise they're getting penalized, and the city, it's.
Right now, can the city afford full-time or 100% pay?
I think we could make it work. Yeah.
We tried to compensate. Didn't we raise the wages to try to compensate a little bit for that?
That went back. That was built directly back into the wage. So like when Scott got changed over, he went from being paid 100% of insurance to having a cap at 600. But that difference
was a
was
wage
then
increase.
incorporated right back into the wage. So that
So
was
yes.
a net. Yeah.
So we got an extra
Couple dollars.
supplement.
Yeah.
Which,
Can a person get health insurance for $600 a month?
That's not the goal though. The goal is to give that's our allowance to that employee for health insurance. What it either whether they go through ours or a different insurance agency, different insurance company, what they end up choosing to purchase at that point is on them, that difference.
I think
to answer your
orig-
question, no, I doubt it.
Can I interject something? Because that's kind of my field, and I haven't done a lot of health insurance in a while for purpose, but when it comes to employees, it's kind of if the employer is going to be paying it, it needs to be more along a group plan or a benefit like that. It's probably a little bit less now that underwriting was less involved, but they were really big in the rules about having everybody treated equally, and letting them pick their own wasn't really an option. It was like, I'm going to pay or I'm not. And the HSA was kind of the way out of that, because you're not paying for health insurance, you're paying into a pool so that they can collect it later. And in the HSA, some of the HSAs will let them pay for their health
Out of that.
insurance out of the HSA.
Sure.
But I'm looking at individual rates here for a 30-year-old male, and they're under $300 a month. So it's direct, on an individual basis, it's directly dependent on how old they are. At 55, it ain't $300 a month.
And whatever if it's high deductible or low deductible, or,
Exactly.
I mean,
Is that through AWC? Is that?
that,
To
he
make
was just,
that point, that means that AWC is incentivizing us having older employees.
well, sure.
Well, and group plans have traditionally been a more preferred rate because there's a lot more people. involved.
To spread it out.
Right.
I don't think the intent, how I understood it, was for us ever to let them go pick their own insurance. It was, we were gonna pay them, we were gonna cap it at $600 for our insurance, and that the initial folks, they were getting that extra dollar into their,
It is a budgeted compensatory benefit, and in my belief, they are due that whether they take the insurance or not.
so that's,
Perhaps I stand alone in that.
Question. Do any of you folks know what the state minimum wage is currently?
1469 or
1369.
1369.
$13.69.
It's going to 1449
Yep.
in January 1st.
Really?
Yes.
$14.49?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not that $2.35 that we had growing up.
Well, just for the sake of the budget concern, I would
Got
make a
that one.
motion that we,
I don't know if you need a motion yet, because this is, all you're doing is giving input for the budget for consideration.
right, but we're gonna have to decide something here.
It would be wise to do it definitely before the end of the year, so I mean, at the next meeting, we can drop,
No, I just don't think he needs a motion today.
right?
'Cause you're
I
not-
said at the last
yeah.
meeting of the year, I think it'd be wise to get anything that we're wanting to change or
Well,
correct.
I guess my question is, are you comfortable with status quo right now with the budget? You don't need a decision out of council which way we're gonna go with insurance tonight.
I would love it.
Well, it says personal
Absolutely.
benefits right now is in the red,
Not in the red, it's red.
or it's red.
Yeah, I would like to nail those down because the next, I mean,
Well, that's what I wanted to do. My premises was take care of it now, so you have guidance to carry on, plug your numbers.
sure, just, okay, I understand what,
I think you're better served putting that out there and getting a consensus rather than actually making a motion. Because really, that motion, when they approve the budget, it's that way. But to say, I mean, to basically state your claim of this is what I think it should be, and we can get a consensus on that, so then he can go forward. So when it comes back to us,
If you guys prefer, I'll just, for the record, state that I prefer that we go back to 100% employee pay.
okay. And then should we choose,
And
should
you
that,
take it or nothing.
Okay.
All in or all out.
all right,
No monetary compensation.
effective January 1, right, for
Yeah.
2022. I don't have a problem with that. Again, I think looking back when we made that when that was approved, it was to try to limit the risk to the city.
absolutely, so that's just something that I wanna make another point on going forward, that at some point that could be substantially more. I mean, it's generally, I think we've seen it go about $40 a year is what I remember. I mean, the 2 years that I've been involved, it went from 811 to I think 840 something.
I
so,
do know the insurance, I mean, my insurance goes up every year too.
Yeah.
The HR departments, and I guarantee that AWC's department that manages this is actively looking at it to make sure that it doesn't just keep skyrocketing. Because that's what HR departments are trying to figure out. Again, because if your 2% pay increase goes up, but your insurance goes up 30%, then you're losing money
You're
essentially.
going backwards.
So,
I cannot answer to that, cause I do get all those filings for the health insurance. And traditionally, through the past 10 years, it's been around 8 to 10% is what the insurance companies have filed for an increase.
yeah.
Keep that in mind.
Peter, what's your thought?
I favor giving 100% coverage, offering 100% coverage to the employees.
Okay.
It just it makes the job more attractive, makes it easier to hire people, and I think a lot of people accept positions more on the basis of health coverage than actual salary.
It's
Yeah.
out there. And I think this last year has been a good science experiment, right? If you call it that. It didn't, I mean,
Good education.
we tried it, and I would say not that it failed, but it probably didn't work out like we maybe thought it was going to.
Well, and moreover, it gives us a direction of consistency.
Sure.
And the lack of consistency is where we wind up in trouble.
Yeah. Just to be clear, as far as budget stuff, that is employee only. 100% paid employee only.
Yes, no,
Okay.
absolutely.
Steven, thoughts?
I disagree. I would prefer to keep it as it currently is.
Okay, Levi?
I agree with David and Peter on that as far as the 100% goes.
Okay.
One advantage to 100% coverage is healthcare benefits are not taxable, are they? For federal taxes,
They should.
Correct.
and taxes are going up, so essentially people are getting a raise for all intents and purposes if they get 100% healthcare.
And if they pay for a spouse or a dependent, that is also tax-free. You take that out pre-tax. You don't pay that on taxable wages.
At an increased rate, though.
Okay.
In the situation of the current public employees, unless I am misunderstanding something, they would be advantaged to take the $600 as taxable income, cover themselves and a spouse at a lower rate on the market, as Joe said, at a 30-year-old rate, and be able to cover two people pretty close for the $600 allowance benefit post-tax, rather than to take 100% of themselves covered by the city and then have to pay 100% of their spouse at a higher rate. I don't see the advantage in that unless a person is significantly older. In which case, the option to take the city's coverage would advantage them. So that's why I disagree.
Okay. It gives me enough on that.
My other question on the wage schedule
Sure.
is, so is this when so the proposal at the base, to say 18, the starting base?
Yep.
Is that when they start at the city, or?
Yes.
So if they came with 5 years of experience somewhere else, they'd still potentially start at 18.
You could change them. I
I
mean, you
think
could.
we left that in our policy book. I think it was up to discussion whether to start them out at a higher wage.
Yeah.
So the reason I asked that though is, so Nathan, I brought this up right at the beginning, before the meeting started, as I was going through the numbers, and so
This is just numbers I plugged in. This is not even. I wouldn't even call this a proposal. This is. I used $18, $19 on the
Sure.
other one, and $20 on the other one, and then tried to put in for your certifications to get a monthly salary range and then a per hour. So I am open to anything
So I have a
that you
couple
guys want on
questions.
this.
I understand Public Works, one, for the most part, although I'm assuming that you haven't synced through the different wage sheets, you didn't sync the columns of 2021 increase and 2022 regular, because on the subsequent wage sheets, the differentials don't add up. I'm guessing that you took the 18 sheet and then just changed.
Yes.
The other
Yes.
ones, okay.
Yes. I understand.
But I understand Public Works one, because base rate plus $8 of potential certifications gets you $26. I don't understand Public Works two, because Public Works 2 has the same $18 base rate and has a total of $8 of potential certifications. So I don't understand why there would be differential between those two lines. Is my first point, and then I have a second one.
They both say $26 an
Yeah,
hour.
say that again.
No, like so I'm looking at the $18
Yeah.
wage sheet.
Yep.
Yep,
Under 2022 regular, it says Public Works 1, $26, Public Works 2, $23.76.
Yeah. Okay, that's because that's where that employee was. So I hadn't adjusted that at all.
But it would be $26.
could be.
Could be.
So,
Well, so that brings me to my second point, is that I think the wage sheet as listed should be based on the base rate and the progression, and certification should be additional to that, because otherwise you run the risk of having this situation. The wage sheet shouldn't, I guess, other than longevity, I guess you could make the argument that longevity changes it based on the person. But the certification should be optional add-ons. They shouldn't be built into the wage sheet, I wouldn't think.
Worst case scenario. That's why 26 is in the wage sheet. That is potentially what we could pay somebody next year. Should they show
So,
up and interview and
I
say, I
guess
got all
then I'm
these?
confused that, is this to serve as a budgeting tool, or is this to serve as, the wage range that the handbook says that we're supposed to have?
Yes.
Both?
I mean, it goes hand in hand.
Because-
Major is budget. It's
Because I don't think that those are the same thing, that if you're using this as a budgeting tool, then saying this is the worst case scenario of what we can pay, makes sense to me. But if you're looking at this as the wage rate sheet that we're supposed to have for the handbook, I don't think that automatically goes to the worst case scenario. It's laying out to say, based on longevity and based on certifications, this is what you get. But it doesn't automatically put those sheets to the high side of, right, because it goes along with the handbook, and the handbook is not employee specific. So therefore, you can't assume any particular certification or not. Right, it would
so
almost,
budget purposes.
it would be a matrix per person of like longevity on one side and certifications on the other, and then you get that layout of this particular position based upon how much longevity they have and what certifications they have. This is the rate that they would get.
Yeah.
So I kind of see those as two separate things, but
Okay.
right now it sounds like this is targeted towards a budgeting
Yeah.
tool, so
Yep.
I understand better. Thank you.
And I know we're beating up the health insurance. This is incomplete with information you have. Maybe I can get the most current information and kind of present what it looks like some options are for 2022. They should have that out to us. But they basically outlined one single plan, the most expensive plan in here. And the rest of the plans that are less expensive, albeit similar, you don't know how it's covered, and I think you have to compare what apples and pears and kumquats look like.
Okay.
From the AWC's program. Thanks, Jerry.
all right, and then back to that wage schedule thing that I was bringing up before. So this is the 2022 starting, but then like year 5, is that supposed to represent 2027?
That is an automatic 50 cent raise per year, unconditional.
Okay,
So I could run that line out to 20.
no, that's fine. So
Unconditionally?
that's what he did it as.
Oh,
It's just,
That's what that is stating.
yes,
If you work here 1 year, you don't have any certifications, that's what you'll
Just-
be making.
to note, the handbook, I believe, has language to say that all cost of living increases are either performance or budgetary dependent, although I don't know that it limits the possibility of an automatic increase, I guess.
well, so again, part of this thing we earlier.
This is just a value. It's not.
Sure,
This is saying that.
you're saying if it was. type
Yep.
thing.
Correct.
Okay.
So going back to that, so yeah, every year that I've been involved, the 6 years I've been involved, it's been from 0 to 3%, I think, is an increase, and it was always voted upon for the budget, if it was there, type of, as a, really like as a cost of living. The only flaw that I see, and I'll call it a flaw, in the 50 cents per hour, is that, as I showed you here, it goes down on a percentage basis in each year, because the numerator is 50 cents is is staying the same and the denominator is getting bigger. So it starts out as a 2.8% increase and then goes to 2.7, then 2.6, then 2.55, then 2.5. So I think there's a risk. The risk there is the inflationary, like minimum, and that's where we got beat up before with the old Public Works 2 position. They were minimum wage and their increases were going up faster than the Public Works 1 at like 25 or 50 cents an hour. So all of a sudden they started out like
Closing
this,
the
and then they
gap.
were just like this because minimum wage is going up almost 6% this next year. So I would just caution you, if you're doing a model like that, is to be cognizant of that piece and maybe, and again, I said maybe put like as a guideline so that they're not hamstrung.
Do you have a recommendation?
Just do a percentage.
We talked
or-
about CPI earlier, right?
Yeah.
Maybe, but again, if CPI, I mean, it's roughly 3%. It's probably between 2.7 and 3.3 on any given year, so it's roughly 3%. But I would tie it more to a percentage than to a dollar amount, just because, again, it's 50 cents an hour. After 20 years, you're going to get $10 an hour raise, which may or may not be. But maybe again in 20 years, the wages right now then are $45 an hour, but this person's only going to be at 29, because I mean, theoretically, just so.
Right.
But again, it's kind of moot to a certain point, I think, because again, every year, and even I think Stephen just confirmed it, and how the handbook is, it's really up to the discretion of the mayor, the budget, the council, and how that's looking. And that's how, again, it's been zero before. I don't know that I agreed with that, but I wasn't on those councils that's where they needed the dollars. So,
Do we wanna call it longevity, COLAs, cost of living adjustments?
Yeah,
I mean,
you could do it a percent, or absolutely.
A couple points from the citizen's point of view. The previous Public Works guy that
Oh.
worked for all those many years, his wage started out in the neighborhood of $8 an hour and was in excess of 20 when he retired.
it's 30 years, right?
So,
39 years,
Oh yeah, 40 years.
almost 40, just 39.
but
He only got 10
as a frame of reference.
yes.
The other thing I'm looking at is I see the council dumping all these numbers on the mayor and expecting the mayor to come up with them when nobody in the council is volunteering to do the insurance research to make sure that we're talking with an insurance agent and getting accurate information to bring back to the mayor to put into the budget. And nobody is volunteering to put a chart together that says, this is the pay chart and this is how it will be, and bringing that back for the mayor to put in there. And I think that might expedite this process a lot more if some people picked up part of these parts that he's having in his red zone that he doesn't quite understand.
I just want to make sure that you guys are going to be happy with
Sure,
with
but-
those numbers.
But to that point, so if you go look at the job description of a council member, you're not going to find one. So for 40 years, the clerk did what you just said. The clerk and the mayor together. 2 of the council members here today, and me as a half of one, because I worked with the clerk, served under that term, and that's all they knew. The clerk and the mayor did everything. So to expect them now to then just turn it off and turn the switch on or off, I don't think that's fair, because there is no job description that says that they should be volunteering to do that. It wasn't until I was the mayor that said, the reason I chose as the mayor to ask for these people's help as committees was because I didn't run for the mayor. I was appointed the mayor, I stepped into it, and I didn't know what I was doing. And so that's where it was like, can you help out do that? Nathan did the same thing. He came into that role, he didn't run for it. And so, right or wrong, that's just what at least half of the council was, I mean, Peter's been on for what, 15 years maybe?
Since 2008.
Okay, so almost 16 years. So that's all he's known. And so I don't think the council's probably opposed to that, but we don't, just like you don't have really probably a good description, and we didn't have one for the public works, there's not one for the council either.
I would like it noted that the garbage spreadsheet was created by a council member less than a week ago.
Okay, well, I'll put in there something that I see fit and hope for the best. If you guys are happy with it, send it via email and make sure you guys have a good look at it. Go ahead, Peter.
It occurs to me that we're trying to make decisions that may not be appropriate in even the near future. We have no idea what economic conditions and wage scales are gonna be
What do you want to put into the budget?
2 or 3 years out. Yeah. I
What,
don't know.
yeah,
Well, I think for budgetary purposes, to Stephen's point, and you mentioned it, like worst case scenario, pick a
higher
medium,
end number.
or a medium number, somewhere down the middle. And we've done it almost probably every year. We've had to amend some things at the end.
Sure.
But I had the same, from a budgetary process, especially now with all the changes. Before it was easier because nothing really changed.
Sure.
But we've had a lot of turnover, and so those things have changed. So I think even if you pick the numbers the 2022 regular that you have in here now, we know it's not going to be probably, I guess the worst case would be they both were the exact same.
Yeah,
And to clarify my questions, I wasn't meaning to criticize what you put forth. I just didn't understand exactly what it was, because I
Sure.
know you had mentioned wanting to have a wage sheet. And so when I saw the term wage sheet, I was analyzing it under that mindset. Then when I heard that you were putting in worst case scenario to use as a budgeting tool, I understood what you were doing, and I wasn't meaning to critique that. I just
No.
needed to understand what it was.
I kind of worked it as both, but I understand how you're
I would,
saying that it could be potentially two different things, or is two different things, but I meshed them together. But
well, I would go for budgetary purposes, this, but not set in stone for.
Sure.
You did good.
'Kay.
For this.
No,
I think I do like the percentage thing though over the dollar amount. But
I like that there's a framework now that is workable
yeah,
and manipulated in the future.
The what is?
the framework. And you can leave it at $1. I'm not this is not a criticism.
right.
This is but just pointing out that, yeah, the fact that you've done all this is, and having this spelled out with the certifications, we haven't had that before. So.
Yeah. Tough thing is mixing and matching or keeping them different. I mean, it rolls into a lot of other things, but
So then for your personnel benefits, we talked about it, I would look, at least for worst case scenarios, just figure out what the plans are and then just
Yep.
plug a number.
I think we should definitely yeah. Okay.
And then do you have, last thing, I guess, do you have some transfer to reserves? Looks like you have a couple.
Yes.
Good.
Yep, some reserve transfers. That was not solely dependent, but relied very heavily on what we chose to purchase for equipment. At our workshop, we talked about some equipment, some high dollar stuff, some not so high dollar stuff, and those kind of played hand in hand. So right now, at this moment, I have $86,000 budgeted for equipment purchases.
For what?
For equipment purchases. But then that still leaves those transfers to reserves. I just didn't know where we wanted to go, but we kind of got that hammered out at the workshop.
And then
While we're on wages, real quick,
Yep.
and then I'll let you go. I have, again, a guesstimation, 200 hours budgeted for the fill-in clerk, just as time-wise, that's what I used to budget to try to put that in, include that, and 40 hours for summer help, which was my thought was, we had 2 guys and we were doing something that everybody said, yeah, go for it, get another person in here for a day here, a day there. That's just the hours that I gave them, but that was just informational. So when you see that finished number for each fund, know that there's some hours included for,
Do you think, so 200 hours is 10% roughly of a full year, so that's like 4 hours a week? Do you think that's, I don't know, but what you've seen so far and what's maybe anticipated, is that enough? I mean, it's a guess, I know it's a
Yeah.
guess, so.
I don't know. Jerry doesn't ever take off, but I'm not to say that he won't. I don't know. We could bump that up too.
Looking at that point.
One thing I do have a comment, Mr.
Sure.
Mayor, is that we throw out volunteer all the time, and just clarification, are we expecting somebody to work free of charge, no compensation, when we use the word volunteer, like volunteer to help the clerk and all that?
Oh.
Are we going to pay them? From my
No, volunteer's not paid.
Okay.
No. Is this going back to Cynthia's thing?
Well, yeah, it would, her or anybody that is, volunteered for the city or volunteer, but the true sense definition of the word is a non-paid.
That's my
volunteer.
opinion. I guess I don't know what it says in the dictionary, but
Well, yeah,
yes,
but-
that would be my take on it. Volunteer is
But like, say, volunteer firemen, they get paid. So how do we view it here, for the
Sure.
people listening and everybody else? I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, but just for clarification, do we want to address that in some way, or put that into the budget? Or what I mean is, that's something we want to entertain.
so
looking at.
Cynthia's paid for. Are you getting to the fill-in, or I mean, just in general, somebody volunteers?
To come in, so many hours a day, and to do cemetery work, and to do this and do that. Is that strictly just for free, they do this of civic duty? Or do we give them a stipend, or do we, a few shekels or whatever to cover?
That's what I said. Are we getting back to Cynthia's thing with my money?
No, your money, I'm just saying, when she
'Cause
comes
there's-
in to volunteer, I just heard, did
You
you hear
heard-
it out there that she is going to help Jerry or volunteer to do this? And I wanted, for clarification, is it civic duty or is she gonna get paid for any of it?
She's volunteering,
Okay,
but when she fills in for when he's gone,
that's a
we
different
pay her.
thing.
Yes,
Okay.
like so Jerry had a eye appointment
Yeah,
or something.
just like
That's paid fill, and that's the clerk filling.
that's just what we've always done
Yeah.
in the past, when somebody,
And you have to be
As far as I
careful
know.
too, after so many hours, so cutting it at 200 hours or whatever, there's I don't know the cap, but I know it exists from previous years, that then all of a sudden they get kicked in as like an employee.
right?
Benefits and
Other things get
yeah.
and then you're kind of bound to that. But I mean, I think we have, we have somebody in the audience here that volunteered to do things for the city earlier this year, like at the bathrooms at the park and things like that. So we have people that want to quote unquote volunteer, and if I think the city, especially like right now, in certain times like this, I mean, the city probably should accept it and be thankful and grateful, but that they want to do that. And some people say, no, I don't. That's what I want to do that. Like you said, civic pride, or civic duty or whatever. But
How does, just throw monkey wrench, and that's what I was getting at, Nathan, I wasn't trying to put you on the spot or anybody
Gotcha.
else. Is that liability wise, like I could be a volunteer like today, going out and doing something on the city's behalf, and if something happens, who's actually liable?
you were supposed to sign a.
Yeah.
You were supposed to sign a waiver.
Okay, we're making them sign waivers
Yeah.
to do the bathroom.
We have one.
Okay,
Yep. I mean, I'm not saying that I've always been here
Yeah.
and that person came in necessarily, but yes, we have one. We have a volunteer waiver.
So you broke the law today, basically.
I was just an observer.
Well, either whatever your job title was. Thank you.
For auditing and consulting,
We didn't run no equipment or nothing like that.
is there going to be any carryover? Do you think? It sounds like there will be, right?
I hope not. I don't know that for sure, yes or no, whether we'll be done and need to pay some out of next year's, but we get that first month close out 2021. You know what I mean? If we do have some and we end up paying,
Okay.
What was that for again,
The
Jeff?
auditing, because
Okay.
we don't do auditing every year.
Right,
With the state auditor, it's every other year, I believe, and so it shows 0, but just hearing that Michael said, I think he was almost done on treasurer side, but Jerry mentioned that there's a whole nother side there, so just to be, again, realistic.
Yep.
I would adjust your fire truck sale, surplus sale, you have 5,000 in here.
Okay.
I
And
will
just do it
then-
as we go.
I had one more thing I was gonna say.
How did I miss that? I wanted
in-
to
it's-
delete it.
It looks
and
like it's highlighted
Yeah.
here, but,
Where are you looking, Justin?
oh, it was line 23, the sale of the surplus fire truck. The dollar amount was 5,000, but
it's
the
looking more
conversations that we've talked about were lower than that. Oh, and then the lot pass through for Innovia, is that kind of an updated, I know it's a
Yep.
pass through, but is that kind of an updated number?
It is. Yep.
Okay,
And I will actually probably update that again before I present it for final approval. But yeah.
so that's line 40 or 24 and line 60. It's just it's a revenue and an expense for the Innovia grant for next door. All right.
Social wash.
Yeah.
Yep. Mayor wages. I forgot to touch on that. You guys happy with mayor wages? You want them to go up? You want them to go down? Sorry. I just saw that on my list. That was something we didn't touch on.
I think it's unfair to expect a mayor to work for the same salary in the conditions of inflation we see today.
So I did remember 2 years ago, I did the research to present to the council for that, because we used to pay the mayor
190.
200, well, originally it was health insurance
In lieu of,
and, yeah, plus,
oh, it was a plus on this one?
but then the mayor that came in didn't need health insurance, so he lost it. It was a use it or lose it.
Yeah.
And so at the time, like even Davenport, I think was roughly equivalent to what we pay the current mayor. I don't disagree with what Peter's saying in terms of what's there. I think that's kind of a little bit of a civic duty too. I think people that are doing it, you can't compensate.
100%.
You'd be paying them $150,000 a year or something probably. I mean, reality, because we have the same burden that a lot of, even more so because there's less people here. But
Do we have any comparables?
I don't
Other
recently.
cities?
I mean, I did. So I researched 2 years ago all the cities in Lincoln County and talked
A
about
couple outside even, I think.
yeah, and talked about the council and the mayor, and because the council used to get paid $25 a meeting, and they cut it because of budgetary reasons. But there was nobody really above, like no one. I don't have my computer, but above I mean, no one was like at $1,000. I mean, Davenport, that mayor, Brad Sweet, was pretty active and involved, and he was around this. He might have been 750, but bigger. But most people were between like 250 and
Okay.
600.
Well, if you guys even want to talk at another time or shoot me an email if you have a number or something. Peter, if you have something else you want in there, I'm going to leave it right there for now.
So you have to change it now, or hold your peace for another 4 years.
Right. But I'll leave it.
Do you have an idea?
I do.
Okay.
And is this the proper venue to talk about it?
Absolutely.
I think at least $750 a month
Okay.
is not an unreasonable figure. And that covers past inflation.
Okay. So you want to have for or against?
Do you need a vote? Is that a
What?
motion?
Not yet.
No, I just
Well, I would do it a couple different ways.
I don't have time to do it a couple different ways.
750 is good with me. For budget.
We will have to approve this so we can. I mean, like I said, if we want to change it beforehand.
What are your thoughts, Justin?
Well, again, you can't compensate. And I look at the last several people that have ran for mayor since I've been here, and there's only been a few, right? It was Dan Fromm, Dylan, Paul, and Jess. So 4 people in the last 6 years have ran for the mayor position, and so, I don't know, I mean, again, I think it's nice, it's a nice thing to do, like to give them that, but you're not gonna, at any level, you're not gonna be able to compensate them for what they do. So it's a nice gesture, so I'm not opposed to
It's
that.
a gratuity, really.
It is, because the amount, I mean, Dylan got, well, honestly, I did too, but Dylan got the real short end, cause he walked into it at $200 a month. And so, I took the mayor position knowing it was $200 a month. It didn't bother me. But I have a different job. I wasn't relying on this money to do anything either. So that's where I think right now. And traditionally, our mayor has been somewhat of a part-time mayor. Paul was here a lot because Paul had the ability to. Dylan, myself, and Nathan have had full-time jobs and haven't been able to. I don't know Nathan's full schedule, but at least I can speak for myself and Dylan just from firsthand. There, we weren't here. I mean, and we knew that. So
I just object to imposing this kind of work and time commitment and stress on a person for no compensation.
yeah, no, it's
It's not fair.
all the other perks, right? Jess gets like a company car and yeah, no,
Airplane.
Alright, sorry, I just threw that in there. That
yeah.
Isn't it true that jurors get paid a little bit of compensation?
Who do?
Jurors,
Jurors,
$10 a day, maybe.
well,
15,
whatever it is.
Yeah.
But they do get paid. So you folks don't receive any compensation?
No,
Council members.
several years ago, before my time, the council decided they were getting $25 a meeting,
Mike always says they traded dollars for cookies.
and so they declined it because of budgetary constraints. I know the school board also does not get paid, or any compensation they were going to get, they put it back to the school. So it's basically volunteer.
A civic duty.
Well, but to Tim's point, jury is civic duty. You get paid.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but
right.
typically those.
But so is volunteers. There's,
Yeah.
what I've learned tonight is there are 3 different categories of volunteers. There's paid volunteers, there's the man or the woman that steps up and says, I will volunteer, and then there's the volunteer that the judge says you will volunteer.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
okay, so.
No, I think it's a good gesture to give. Like Justin said, we're never going to be able to compensate for the actual full job, so to try to give them, that person, whoever it is, now or then, something. It's good, which is actually almost flip side from what I voted on, I think 2.5 years ago.
Not to open up a can of worms, but the librarian and treasurer, will they be feel left out?
No, his wage sheet has a 2% increase for both the treasurer and the librarian.
Yeah,
I stand
whatever,
corrected.
whatever we want to, if we want to go to 3. Because that's easy stuff for me, Dave. That's just literally putting a different number in that cell on this document that
That kind
I
of,
have before me. It changes probably 15 other pages, but it's as easy as that. So that's not something that requires a lot. So if we want to change those numbers, I can.
Do we have the budget for a 5% increase? I think whatever increase we give to them should reflect the ambient inflation rate.
See you folks.
See it,
I
Tim?
think
Thanks for coming, Tim.
we could potentially. Yes, we could potentially do a 5%. It's just how much.
Well, your equipment's going to probably go down.
How much do we? Yes. How much do we want to change other things? So do we buy less equipment, or we put less in reserves, or we have less training money? I mean, it's built. There's so many things built in there that yes, it could be done. Something else is just going to change.
is that something we can cross that bridge when we get to it?
Well-
We're there.
You know,
Because basically, I don't know what he's doing. I mean, you're just plugging a number in there to see it, but every iteration would then require, 10, I mean, you could have 10 hard copies to see it, but there's so many different combinations too then. Like, so if you raised it, as an example, 5%, I don't know what that total dollar amount is, but instead of 85,000 for equipment, it's probably gonna be $50,000 for equipment, just as an example.
Yeah.
So what's the greater need? But that's, our problem right now is we have a revenue problem, is what our biggest thing is we don't have additional,
Sources of
yeah,
revenue.
we rely mostly on the state to give us our income. We have a little bit of sales tax, we get our property tax, property tax is probably the biggest, but the state gives us a ton of money. And so at this point right now, we don't have, so that's what the whole thing is, like, on the backs of our citizens, when we raise the utility rates, that's a big revenue source, but then it hurts our citizen. I mean, so that's the challenge, is we have right now limited, that's why before too, this is a soapbox issue, but it's important for the new council member that's gonna be here, as well as the new mayor, for going forward, is getting these businesses in there that generate sales tax revenue. It's free money for the city. And so at a previous time, a council member said, well, that's not the city's job to worry about that. That's like the chamber or somebody. And I said, no, it's not necessarily, not that it's not the city's job, but you can still encourage it. Not that you have to be the big cheerleader and out there beating the drums, but it's encouraging, because I mean, I write a check every quarter to the state, which I see how much goes to the city, and for the sales tax, and there's 3 businesses in town that generate 4 businesses that generate sales tax that I'm aware of. Maybe the RV park does too, so maybe 5. But we could have 10 or 15 just with these businesses, these buildings, these empty buildings. So obviously, 2 buildings are good. Like, one just got online, another one's coming online. But so that's important, because that's a revenue source for the city that can help with the 5% increase, and still allow for 85,000, whatever number it is for. But right, we've been so long in either or. It's either an increase to you, or we have to pay for a street improvement project type of thing. So, and it's not gonna happen overnight to both of you, just so you know. But Social Security is going up, what, 6-point-something% this year? 5.7%?
5.9.
5.9, highest in,
But what they didn't tell you is that also our Medicare benefits went up from
no,
145 to 185.
so it's up like 16%.
So I got $60 more a month, but they took 45 of it away for my health benefit.
Yeah.
Everybody says, well, that's free, isn't it? Oh, no.
No, I'm just saying the point of being that
You
Social
pay for
Security,
that.
this, because Peter mentioned about the increase in the cost of living this year. So this was
Yes.
the biggest year ever, I think, at least
22.
in record.
22, yeah.
So, to your point, I mean, it's 5%, but so the other thing is our wages went up last year. So 5% on those new wages is going to be higher than what it's typically been, because we kind of tried to readjust in 2021. So if I were you, you might punch in 5% to see what it looks like, and jot that on the side and bring it up. Or did you send this to us in Excel or the PDF?
PDF.
If you send us the Excel, we can play with that.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be something good for you guys to see. I mean, obviously, I was in the same boat when you were married. I was like, I had no idea what went into this.
One more comment.
Sure.
I feel very uncomfortable giving an increase to our trash collector and giving no increase to our part-time employees. I think we should emphasize.
Trash collector, we weren't asked on.
What, did I say tax collector?
No, you said trash.
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 Same thing almost.
Right.
What's the part-time employees are getting a 6% increase? The minimum wage goes up 6% next year. So minimum wage goes from $13.69 to $14.50. And that's, so the people that are doing that work are getting a 6% increase
Built in.
automatically, because
We're
it's minimum
forced.
wage. Yeah, forced.
by state.
Since minimum wage is increasing, it's going up 6%. So they're getting a built-in.
I I'd forgotten that part of it.
No, it's gonna happen next year too. I think it's trying to get to a statewide $15, I think is what they're shooting for.
1479 or something.
49
49
next year,
Yeah.
but then in 2023 it'll be 15. It was a phased increase. So, so the part-time folks are, Peter, they're getting,
We are getting.
they're getting a 6%
Yeah.
raise.
I'd forgotten that part of the story.
Nope.
So, what do you need, does that answer all your questions, Mr. Mayor? They're clear as mud
Yeah.
now.
Clear as mud.
Utilities, obviously we talked about. The garbage portion of it pretty heavily. The last, which I was ecstatic, that was fantastic. Steven made a spreadsheet while we were chatting at the workshop and came up with something, and that's actually part of what you guys were sent. Makes sense to me. However,
Well,
whatever different numbers we choose to put in those could be talked about, but as far as having a steadfast, easy to understand, and logical plan to what we charge for utilities has been one of my biggest goals. And obviously, all of them not been done. But, so I guess what I'm saying is I'm very much in favor of structuring what we charge for garbage like it was presented, like Stephen put it together.
The only question I would have, and I don't know
Sure.
if tonight for further discussion, I thought the premises was, we were gonna charge per gallon, all equal. And the stuff I worked out, you get to the same total, but everybody, whether it's a 32, 65, or 90, they're getting charged the same cents a gallon, same rate per gallon. And I just want clarification from Stephen, is, I see the current, on his chart, we have a difference between the 32, the 65, and the 12.
That's
or-
currently.
or the-
Yeah.
Yes, but the proposed, it works out different, they're not all,
No, it's all at,
It's all at 15
15 cents a gallon.
for the
I don't
proposed
know where you're
rates.
getting 15 cents a gallon, because when I do the math, it's more like 30, it's almost 30 cents, the grand total to come up with everything.
How are you doing your calculation?
Simple math.
Is-
Walk me through it.
With the overhead as well.
Because I'm just taking what we have here on this proposed, right here. And you divide that, or you add up the total, and then you add up the amount of gallons, and divide it, that comes up price per gallon.
Okay, so you take the proposed price, you would minus the cost from Sunshine, and then from that remainder, you divide that by 15 cents, and or you divide that by the number of gallons, and it'll come out to 15 cents.
This is not what I sent.
Oh,
Well, not that, but this is what you said.
Oh,
here.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm just looking
Scared
at
me.
what the city, what we charge, what the citizen, what Joe, Jess, me,
Mhm.
everybody gets, what we're gonna see on our bill, that's the figure, what we collect. And it's a
So,
price per gallon, because I thought the premises was that we,
the way the total's calculated right now is you take the Sunshine rate,
mm-hmm,
which is the base rate that we can't control. We have
That's what they charge
absolutely
us.
zero control over that. Then you take the number of gallons times 15 cents and add that to the Sunshine rate, plus the overhead per container, and that's the total rate.
So your 30 cents a gallon is correct, because it's that Sunshine rate built into it that we have
Right.
zero control over.
right. But I was just looking, well, the way, okay.
I mean, they're
Right-
both correct. It's just
Right
how you-
now, under what I figured out, that a 32 gallon, we would charge, the customer $10.44 for that tote. And all these have 32.62 cents a gallon.
because you have to add in with the,
But we come up with the same, we come up with the same total. It's price per gallon, whether you have a 30, a 50, or 100, or 1,000 gallons.
Okay.
You're,
So
you're
maybe-
still paying X amount a gallon, and I thought that we
you
were
guys
gonna
were debating
equalize.
that. I reworked the spreadsheet a bit. Maybe this will help make sense.
I mean, we're right in the same
Can we
ballpark,
print
but
that, Stephen?
Yep.
The only difference I have questions with, Stephen.
Okay, so these are the same numbers as what's on the sheet. It's just presented a little bit of a different way. Okay, so here's what we got. You've got the sunshine base rates, right, and the current total rate. So what happens here is, like, let's take the 32 gallon, right? The 32 gallon, you would have the contribution towards tipping. Okay, so this is representing the rate per gallon, and we're trying to address the tipping rate situation. Is just taking the 32 gallons times 15 cents. That's true all the way across the board. Okay,
Where are you getting your tipping data?
it's 32 gallons times 15 cents is 480, and that equation is true all the way through.
Okay.
the.
My question is on your, so much, where are you back to cents? Okay, that's cubic yards. Your cents, your how much per gallon?
So it's 15 cents a
cents.
gallon. 32 times 15 cents is 480. 65 times 15 cents is 975.
So this graph here that you sent me, or had it out originally, this one is,
It's the
correct?
same. No, it's the same. It's the same thing, just presented differently. So I'll walk you through this. So right here we have the 32 gallon, and it says that the sunshine rate plus the overhead. Well, okay. Actually, I know where some of this is coming from because Nathan, you changed the overhead.
I was looking at this right here, these different prices for the,
That's current.
right.
This is current.
And this would be current too. This is with mirrors, where is it?
Okay, so
This
the only
right
thing
here.
that matters is this matches up with Nathan's data, and it's important how we get it. Okay, so we take 32 gallons times 15 cents is $4.80 contributed towards the tipping fee. The overhead for that container is 50 cents. So the proposed price, all up, is Sunshine's base rate, $10.35, plus the tipping contribution, $4.80, plus the overhead of 50 cents, equals $15.65. When you go to the 65 gallon, you have Sunshine's base rate here of wait a minute, just a second.
Well, the thing is, when I look at, you're paying more per gallon with a smaller load,
No.
smaller tote.
No, you're not.
The math I'm doing does.
We're not supposed to, is what Steven's saying. He's
Just
not
a
meaning to, but
Let me double check a rate here. It's coming out to the same total, but I've got a column mixed up, I think. When I reworked this, I have a column at a position.
Maybe we're just looking at different information. This sheet right here, Nathan, what you sent out last time, is any of this stuff relevant, or it's no good? I know this is our new sunshine increase.
It's relevant, but it's not really important. This is
correct, actually.
this is currently what we pay. That's currently what we charge.
Right.
I just had that mislabeled.
And then
That is correct.
that was the,
But
let's figure this out.
This is with all the increases figured in.
That's what we currently charge right now.
And that's with the sunshine increase and the tipping fee increase.
this is today, this is. the-
That's what you got billed
Right,
for in
right.
November.
Yeah.
Okay, 'cause
Now,
So then next
this
month,
was-
do you
this
have it
was correct.
updated, the one with the stuff?
This was correct.
With
I
what
got
the proposed
confused because the
increases
deal
are
is
from
Sunshine
Sunshine and
charges us
tipping fee.
less for a 65 gallon than a 32 gallon, so this is actually correct. So, do you understand first how we calculated the 32?
Right.
Okay, then it's the same thing for the 65, that you have Sunshine's base rate. This is the contribution towards tipping, which is just 65 gallons times 15 cents is $9.75. The overhead is 50 cents. So therefore, the total proposed price is Sunshine's base rate plus the tipping contribution plus the overhead is 2008.
That's what the customer's gonna see on their
Yeah.
bill. What's the total of those three to the city?
The total to the city?
Well, these all three added up, what is it?
You mean by customer?
Just the total amount of money that will, off of,
Well, no one has all three cans.
I know, but so I'm trying to get an average.
Oh,
$59 and $60 and 63 cents.
Okay.
I think,
Do you-
roughly.
Did you send that out? That
well, this
particular one?
this reworked when I just was working on today.
Okay.
But the key thing to keep in mind here is if you calculate the gallons based upon this number, that's not going to be an accurate reflection of the things that we can control and what we can't, right? Because keep in mind, Sunshine's rate is not commensurate to the number of gallons.
It's fixed.
It's fixed, yes, but it's also a 32-gallon can costs $10.35 and a 65-gallon can costs $9.83. So if you take this number and divide it by the number of gallons, it's not going to come out equal because, for one thing, Sunshine doesn't charge us on that kind of a basis. Similarly, the overhead that we have per can, there's no more overhead for a 90-gallon can than there is for a 65-gallon can. So the overhead is not changing based upon the can. The only thing that should be exactly equal all the way through is the tipping contribution.
And when you say tipping, is that the weight of it?
That's what we're trying to.
Find out?
Estimate
Yes.
from volume.
Right. See,
So
that was a question, but, so you understand what I was trying to do is get a price per gallon and whatever,
but you can't take it off of this number, though, is my point.
whatever we're getting now in the city, Sunshine and what the customer pays, and get an average what we should be charging. And the way I figured out, we're within a couple cents of what this
Yeah,
and
I think that's where Steven initially came up with that 15 cents because
Because we're gonna be, as far as the weight, now it's an arbitrary figure, correct? I mean, some days,
yeah, no, I just
bag
looked
of
at it
feathers
today.
or concrete type thing, which is good for us if it's lighter,
Yeah.
or the concrete. So if you wouldn't mind, if you could send me a copy of that tonight or in the
Yeah.
near future so I can look at it and go over it. Other than that, I think we're both on the same path.
Okay, the one thing I wanted you to see from this, Nathan, is in order to try and set overhead and
Oops, sorry.
set the tipping fee, depending on what numbers you wanna make work in your budget, keep in mind, this would be the yearly contribution from overhead. So
Gotcha.
whatever you wanna have going towards salaries or any of the overhead stuff, this number should equal out,
Okay,
which is, I felt, kinda low.
I do too.
So maybe the overhead fees should raise. This is ideally, this yearly rate should exactly match what we pay Lincoln County for the tipping fees. That would be the goal.
Sure.
This should exactly match the employee and whatever else stuff, and this should match Lincoln County. And if that's true, the rest of those numbers will work out properly.
Okay. No, I'm in favor. Just I don't know. Just for the record, I guess to be able to structure it to where you are being directly charged on the size of what you have.
Right.
Okay. I think I hope that I have enough for the budget stuff. I will send out another one as soon as I can. That's will be along the lines of this is what I'm proposing to pass.
Well, and I want to reiterate, if I may, for this, as far as equalization, was that any further increases by Sunshine or the tipping fees, that we have, if you're paying price per gallon, that it would just plug and play, it just go over.
Well,
What we
and
talked
what I
about.
was just going through with Nathan is that my new spreadsheet has a total, because again, the two controllable things that we have is how much we charge per gallon
Mm-hmm.
and then what we charge in overhead. And the way in which we would set those two numbers is
directly.
the total, what this old spreadsheet didn't have was a total for the overhead contribution per year and a total for the tipping fee contribution per year. My rework spreadsheet has that, and the way this works then is that everything will work out even for the garbage budget if the tipping fees that we pay Lincoln County equal the complete tipping year contribution through the spreadsheet, and all of our overhead equals the overhead portion of it. So basically, you kind of work the sheet in reverse, that you take like last year's fees to Lincoln County times the percentage increase expectation, and then you play with the rate until it works itself back out from that. And then similarly with your overhead, if your contribution towards salaries or whatever else has gone up, you figure out what you want out of that coming for the overhead from all of those public works budgets, and that should work you back to the overhead rate.
Yeah.
And then you only have to determine how you want to split that between dumpsters and trash cans. And that's
Yeah.
the thing, is that is this gets priced more fairly, more proportionally.
Equal.
It's
Yeah.
gonna drive people probably away from dumpsters to cans, and from bigger cans to smaller cans.
Which is a benefit on tipping.
It is, but it means that the numbers probably won't stabilize for at least a year or two. So you could like work this spreadsheet back and say, next year we should come out exactly even.
And it won't be.
And it won't be, and the primary reason why is because if we start to make this more proportional, you're gonna see all of your dumpsters, or a lot of your dumpsters disappear, and so those rates change. But eventually it should stabilize when this equation gets the chance to work for a couple of years. People won't move around as much, and you should be able to project much more accurately.
Right.
Okay.
The only thing I would say with that too, for budget purposes, is know that you can't enact it on day one.
Yeah,
So you have
1
to,
month
you have to prorate it.
Can't what?
You can't enact it on day one. You have to have like a 45 days or 30 days?
It's 45.
3 months, whatever.
Yeah, so you have to just, you can't say on January 1st it's gonna be this full boat.
That's just got to play into the equation for the budget, is knowing that X amount of time.
In
We'll still
answer
be
to
at-
that, it's 12% of the whole number of people who have 30-gallon or have 100 1-yard dumpsters. So if only 12% of the people are unhappy and 88% are happy, that's a pretty good average.
City
isn't it?
government, that's pretty good
Yeah.
numbers.
And I would be willing to bet that those dumpster users, I don't think it'll take 2 years to weed it out. I'll bet you if they're notified that if you say you're gonna start this on March 1st, I would be willing to bet that if we make it well known to the public, that probably 80% of that 12% will get rid of their dumpsters before March 1st.
Well, this, I'd like to say, this is a standardization, equalization project.
Yeah, and that's the part that I like. I'm in
Especially
favor of
when
that.
some of them are gonna actually get a decrease possibly.
Yeah, with this proposal, it would.
I have only one thing to add to that whole thing. And that is how we let them know everything that goes into the equation. I don't think they need to know all of the
I can-
pieces of the equation.
I can print this for anyone that wants it.
You need to spread it out, but maybe not, they don't need to know how much overhead we're putting into there. Is that a fair statement?
You talking about citizens or sunshine?
No, I would just, I could print this right out for them. I mean, I think that's fine. That
In previous years, I wrote it and I said that we had a 3.7% increase from Lincoln County and a 2.75%, whatever that was, increase from, Sunshine. But it is what it is.
I mean, as a citizen, I think it's something good actually that you'd want to see to that.
They're gonna ask the question.
Yeah, you can say, here's our increase. Here's why our rates went up.
Because the city's rates went up. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. If
we're
county and
charged.
Sunshine goes up,
They're
we
gonna-
gotta pass that along.
Oh no, and then we talked about it before that our employees' wages go up that have to cover that. So
Is there any bandages around here?
One other question on the budget, and I think I'm gonna run with that and move on the agenda. Are you guys happy with continuing the code compliance at 6-month position versus a 12. We've had some lengthy discussions in and out of, or at least I have in and out of meetings on having somebody enforce rules half the year. What's your guys' quick thought on that? That was something that I wanted to propose, was that job 12 months a year
Do
for
we-
2022.
Do we have, I guess do we have a need for it? Is there people complaining, you said?
I would say the need does not stop when November 1st comes around.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, I understand your question now.
So I think there's still plenty of issues out there right now,
Okay.
and basically, and if somebody technically got a notice the last day of the month, and then all of a sudden they get a 6-month reprieve,
Yeah.
that they just sit around and wait.
Play
I mean,
catch up all the time.
Yeah, so I'm not opposed to 12 months.
And if that person should choose, I think it'd be great if they would help work on some of those ordinances and some of that stuff if they chose to. But
And what do we currently pay is, what was the rate we're paying?
$150
yeah,
a month.
150.
$150 a month?
It was roughly $10 or 10 hours. 8 to 10 hours is what.
We could,
a week is what you're thinking?
yep, and we could adjust that too to fit. I mean, as far as budget purposes, but that kind of played into both budget and I guess just general operations.
I thought I was seeing a different figure on some of the pay stuff, the check registers.
The problem with doing it, are you talking about the car ordinance now?
The person in
Which is-
charge of that, yeah,
The what?
the person in charge of that, the
Yeah.
code compliance officer or enforcement.
Is it, to add on to that, Mr. Davenport, is it also the chief chicken chaser, dog catcher?
Correct.
He's the designated guy now? No, or new city employees?
That was
Future?
We're
correct.
comparing apples and oranges because you can have a continuing dog problem throughout the year, but trying to get rid of a car and when there are 3 feet of snow on the ground,
Well, that was,
It's property owner's problem.
yeah.
but that was the question I had, is there a need for it? And I guess if there's dog, animal, if we wanna enforce something.
That's
in the
definitely one of the bigger things that come to mind are the animals.
What are we paying the ordinance enforcement person now?
150 a month, but 6 months, only half the year.
Does
Well, I'm
that
in
go
favor
up
of going forward.
automatically?
Say that again.
Does that go up automatically?
No.
It's been set at that rate for
I
3.
saw something that was set at 250 at some point. I don't know if that was just a draft and it got changed, but
So that code, that's a title is code enforcement officer, is what we're gonna stick with?
Yeah.
The reason why I say that, like if we develop something for no dogs going into park and all this stuff, that position will be responsible for policing that for us going forward.
I've seen it both ways. I've seen enforcement and compliance.
So the 250 is the rate it has been.
Per month.
It is
Right.
250 right now.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
That's $1,500 a year.
Okay.
That's what it has been. I don't know if that's
I
what,
was already looking at mine. No, I changed it
to 150.
Yeah.
Oh.
to go 12
Be
months.
close to the full year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But I still think, well,
What do you think, Justin? You wanna
oh,
go
I'm
there?
for full year. I don't know that. Again, 250. If maybe it was. I don't know. Yeah, I guess.
I'll check to make sure. I won't put my foot in my mouth. I guess I already have, but I'll check to make sure.
I'm
But
not opposed to the full year. I don't. Since we started it, I don't think that things stop on November 1st.
Well, what action do you need out of us, a motion or anything?
right now, nothing.
It's just the budget.
Yep, I just
For a
that
budget?
was a thought that I was considering while doing the budget.
So we can budget for a full year, I'm in favor.
Okay, Steven, do you have any corals? I think you've said this before, and I'm gonna kind of pick on you. It's either all or nothing,
Yeah.
and that's what led me to that question.
I think you're gonna be doing a lot more for salaries and compensations, all up. Ideologically, yeah, there's no reason why we shouldn't be enforcing 6 months out of the year. I guess I just have continued doubts about whether we really have any practical methods of enforcement at all, and
Bigger problems.
I will look forward to seeing that money come to be efficacious to the city's benefit. Not because Jay was doing a poor job, but I will be interested to see if anyone can make that
Justifiable.
pay justifiable. I have my doubts that it can happen, but
Well, okay, to add to that, dog licenses and stuff like that, who polices that?
As far as who
who-
issues them or whether you're not you have done it.
From what I understand, we have to, dog owners have to register them or license
Correct.
them each year. Who
Okay.
monitors that?
They come into City Hall, there's a list,
Honor system.
and they come in and they pay. A couple years ago, we had a list. Paul and Dylan both went around trying to look, and Bunny was then in charge of trying to figure out, did you add any new dogs, or did any of your dogs die? And what's the current count? That was also supposed to be, Shelley Quigley did that before. I don't know if Jess did, I don't know if Jay did,
No.
but, okay. So we had, because Dylan was all about that list. He made the list, and I didn't do anything with the list.
So there's a register and it's an honor system, so we don't know.
If we have nobody to go check it afterwards, correct.
So,
If that person does that, then obviously we could check back on it.
and currently, the ones that we do, how much revenue did it generate doing the tags? Do you know, Jerry?
I think you have $500 in the budget, but I thought it was more.
No, I think that wasn't there for what we spent. That was
Oh, the
the
spending.
5,000 number.
Well, I know
It
some
drastically went down. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
In the 2 years that I've been involved.
Well, I know our neighboring towns.
So yeah, you have $500 for revenue in pet licenses and $100 for expenses.
For this year, yeah,
For 2022.
yes.
That's yeah, you budgeted
Sorry,
that.
yes,
No,
for the proposed.
So I'm out of compliance.
You have animals? You have 2 dogs.
So
I thought it was coming in on my,
I had 1,000 for last year,
April.
and we brought in 300.
Oh, yes.
Budgeted 1,000 for pet licenses?
Correct.
Budgeted for.
For 2021's budget done this time last year, I had $1,000 in there for
And we
budgeted to
collected 300.
yes.
Does that mean we had fewer dogs, or we just didn't register them?
The second one,
All the above, actually.
yeah. I mean, it could be a little bit of both.
Our neighboring towns license cats. Now,
Okay.
we should start licensing birds.
oh Lord,
Well,
you're
Dandelion.
gonna price me out of town.
no, so I get back to the code enforcement officer. I mean, I agree with Steve. I see his point, but also, I think in a necessity as current, as Justin brought up, that people, one of you guys brought up that people slack off and do whatever they want. So how important it is to us?
Right,
I mean,
and I think that's what it comes down to.
I'd go either way, you know. But I mean,
Okay.
I'd look at it, see if you can do it.
I'd be more for it than against it, put it that way.
Okay.
I like the idea of consistency myself. You're right. Consistency. It's ideologically a position that they could work themselves out of.
That would be an
People think
okay
you get to a
problem.
position where
Theoretically.
You don't need it you don't need that anymore.
Okay. Obviously, we're gonna have to amend 2021's budget. I wouldn't say for bad purposes, but we have every year some stuff that we don't plan on, or I mean, we had our additional coronavirus funds this year, so there's some stuff like that. I'll get that out to you probably the same time as my proposed last 22 budget, but I don't have that finished quite yet. Is there any comments or questions on the amendment? I mean, I don't expect to have much, not seeing it.
None at this
Haven't
time.
seen it yet, okay. Mayor's update, comments, a couple of just FYIs. First one is the vacant lot project bathroom is actually making some headway and hopefully going to be installed within a short period of time. The last email I received was this week was a week of 12/6. I haven't checked or heard anything new, but just to let you guys know that. So if you see a crane and building over here, you guys know what's going on. Got some emails and a draft resolution back from Josh Grant on our surplus real property. I printed one off. I will send it to you via email too. There's still some additional things that we're gonna have to do on that. And I can forward you those emails as well, but that's just kind of an update, making progress.
What did Josh Grant do?
Our attorney, he gave us that draft resolution for our surplus properties. So I'll send you some emails along with that as well, just kind of what he said and how he feels about everything.
And this is for the proposed sale of the properties?
Yes. Yep.
We have to advertise them, I'm sure, don't we?
Yep. There's a few more steps there. And he lays that out in his emails, so I'll send those on to you guys. Our current situation with employees, I talked to Scott about if he would be willing to step in and help with plowing and the treatment plant both. I got no definite answers, so I will continue to talk to him, but he didn't say no. So that may be an option at least for a little while. I'll keep you guys updated on that. That's all I have for mayor update. What did I miss on here? I know we jumped around a bunch.
Additions to the agenda.
Do you want to add like your water meter issue at Garcia residence or
Yeah, that's on the RV.
Yep.
in public
Fantastic.
position?
Okay. The advertisement here, I was hoping to be able to get a salary range into that advertisement for the public works to put in the paper. I don't know. I'm proposing to advertise without it, just like that. I would love to have it in there so that people could know before coming in or talking to anyone, but I think it's in our best interest to get it advertised sooner than later. So there's one printed there, and I can send you that via email as well. That's just something I obviously added to the agenda, so I didn't, or else I would have already emailed it out. But if you guys want to read through that and look at it, suggestions or comments. Water meter. So we had a little water problem late last night, early this morning at Gabe Garcia residence at the trailer park. We have a council member and an incoming mayor that helped a ton today on that, and I'll get to the gist of what happened and where we're at. On the house side of the meter, it broke, split there for whatever reason, and was leaking. So I got a call. Can you guys look at it? You have a water leak, and I said sure. We'll get to it in the morning. These guys worked I don't know how many hours today, but got it cleared out. Found out what the problem was, and there's like I said, there's a break on the house side. Property owner, being that the meter is inside the property line, how far is that, guys? Do you think 15 or 20 feet probably? Is of the opinion that it is our problem. Sounds like we are pretty steadfast. I mean, if it's on their side of the meter, it's their responsibility. And so somebody has fixed it. There's a bill there to getting that fixed. It was dug up and fixed, so that house now has water. And I want your guys' thoughts on who's responsible for that bill.
It's on the house side of the meter, you say?
That is correct. Not very far, but it is. It's
Do we have any idea how it got broken?
old age.
Earth shifting something.
Yeah. no man-made. Nobody was working on it or nobody drove over it or anything like that. This is inside a fenced yard.
Did anyone tell them that the city would pay for it?
No.
No. Once we found out where the break was, like I said, David and Jess, big thank you to you guys for working on that today. But that's once we found out where it was, that's where we left it. We
Nothing was insinuated
no.
until we could ascertain where it was broken. Then the deciphering.
I think it's cut and dry. I mean,
I do too. I just wanted you guys' thoughts because property owner feels a little bit different because that meter's in the yard. But
Force majeure, my opinion. Every municipality that I've lived in, the meter, with one exception, but the meter is,
The property line.
that's as far as
Responsibility.
responsibility,
yeah.
that's it.
So it's on the ends, it's between the meter and the house,
correct.
but he thinks that just because the meter is in the house,
In
It-
In their
in the
property,
yard.
in their yard,
that makes it,
the city's responsibility.
You have two terms here. You have water meter and you have property line. Those both come into play, and that's what the question. That's why I'm here.
perceived property line. They don't know the exact.
Sure,
property line.
absolutely. We don't. It's
Did the city hire a commercial company to do any of the repairs, or was it our own personnel?
it was a commercial contractor.
Bond, licensed bonded contractor.
Did the city hire the person? Or did they? Well, who did it
City-
work?
Contract Heidegger,
No, who hired him? Who called him to come out and do it?
Homeowner?
the homeowner.
Oh, then, yeah.
So David touched base with him first, and we chatted today, and I said I would let them make the call, the property owner make the call, because it's on that side of the meter. And that call was made, and it's fixed.
I guess I'm not even understanding what the theoretical argument is.
Well, you have
Or-
the
Go ahead, David.
the homeowner, the actual owner, saying they're gonna fix it, they're on it, and then the person, the tenant, I mean, what would you call him, tenant? It's not a rent, but resident living there, had to fix it, but then during the fixing of it, or during, when they showed up, he was saying, well, that's the city's problem, or they should be, get it off
Well,
of
it's
here.
like, okay, so I've got a meter that's in my house.
Right.
And so, and I can see both sides of that line. I could see the argument to say that if it was on the
City.
side between the meter and the city, that even though it's in my house, it's the city's responsibility because it's on the other side of the meter. I can see that argument. But this would be like me looking 2 inches past the meter into my house and say, well, because you put a meter in my house, you should pay for it, even though it's on my side of the meter, regardless of where the property line is. So I don't see the argument for why the city would pay for it because it's their property and it's their side of the meter. No matter which way you slice it, I don't see where the city's responsibility could possibly come.
And I have
Is
pulled.
Further information, I believe it was 5 years ago, by ascertaining what broke, they had replaced it, I think it was Kaiser they referenced, had replaced that up to the meter, the part that had broke. So the city did not install that portion.
Which is the next thing I was actually gonna
Yes.
think about bringing up is that we've also done work on people's properties, so we have the hairy thing of, do we have any warranty or liability responsibility? So if we didn't even install it, I really can't.
So basically, you guys located it, saw what was going on, and
It was in that general vicinity, so I said absolutely we'll check it out because it could have very well been on our side. And so,
Right.
like I said, these guys stepped up and worked on it, and then found out where it was leaking.
So the stub that broke, we have a picture in your mind, we have a meter. We have the city supplying water to that meter. It's leaving about 4 inches out where they 5 years ago connected to it. That's what broke.
Yeah,
Okay,
Water coming in
I just wanted you guys' thoughts.
to their house.
We touched on the other addition that I had, the Public Works resignation, but I will go over it again. As of 11 o'clock today, our Public Works 2, our second Public Works person put in their resignation effective immediately. So, just wanted everybody to know that, if they didn't already.
What are we gonna do if we have a crisis? Rely on Scott?
If he chooses to, that's
We
fantastic.
break a water main?
Or contractor.
Head digger.
What's your telephone number, Peter?
Oh, no.
Dave and I did our job today.
And if, great on Scott if he wants to. If he doesn't want to, that's fine. He's retired by all means, so we will definitely have to figure out a correct pay
You shut the
Should
water
he-
off, we don't have to worry about it, right?
should he decide to do that.
But that is a very valid point. It's a scary point, actually.
Yeah.
And I would recommend that the response time out of Dwight
Heidegger, I think.
Heidegger.
is-
Yes.
was fabulous, for the record, for everybody.
And just to add to that, they are also the same people who took care last time that we did not have Public Works employees. They did water leak just in front of Jess's house.
On Fifth Street.
So, what else am I missing? Those were my additions.
Johnson Family Towing status, the lease, where does it stand? Did we renew it?
So
or
I
not?
we have not renewed it, and upon reading it a second time, I believe that we do need to renew it. The wording in there said that they have an option for one renewal period for 2 years. Well, when I talked to them originally, we misread it, or because we both agreed. I'm like, oh, okay, you're correct, we're fine. But I think we do need to renew it, so I will recontact them and.
Do we know who drew up the original lease? Anybody know? Our
Well,
attorney?
I was on the council then.
I was the mayor. We just probably got it from, had our attorney read it, or,
It was
got
the
it.
city attorney then,
yeah, it's
Put
Tim
more
McMullen or.
I think the actual
template, or the
template came from Johnson Family, didn't it? Am I remembering right?
probably-
No.
No,
Levi, you're still with us?
I'm still here.
Okay. Anyways,
so what's the deal with the 2-year extension? That wasn't something they were interested in, or?
was that an automatic renewal?
no, that's just it
It's an
stated. It
option.
says lessee may have the right to renew the lease with a total of 1 renewal periods, with each term being 2 years. So we were thinking that the renewal period was 2 years and wasn't up yet, but obviously by the dates.
So is
It
this
is.
back, does this go back to the original start? I imagine it probably says some to the effect in there from the original lease date, 2 years from that.
Yeah, so June 1 of 2019
Mm-hmm.
to May 31 of 21 was the original 2-year lease agreement. And then this particular signed lease has the option for 1 2-year renewal. So from 22 to 23. So
21 to 23.
21 to 23.
Okay.
So it does need to be renewed.
And that's, so if we renewed it in 22, it still
That's it.
ends in 23?
Yeah,
We could do that however we wanted. I would think that would be the way that it would go, yes.
well, when we put this together originally too, this was the first time we did it, and some people were nervous about it. We didn't want to overcommit
Right.
in case we wanted to do something. So it was meant to be
Cautious.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
to make sure
A
that it
little
was
shorter term than.
yeah. So the one thing though, people have asked me, and I don't know, but has anyone been out there? Because
I have not. I talked to
somebody
him.
said that somebody's living out there,
They are.
which is not. I think it's. I don't know if it was.
I don't know if it's stated in that lease, though, that would be a violation for termination of the
Right.
lease, so. That's-
So do we want to address that?
I think we should.
and it-
Well, no.
Would it be
well,
insured, the only thing that come to mind would be we're carrying insurance on it, right?
Correct.
Would they have an issue with that in any way?
So this here too says,
I don't
You
know.
have to read the policy, but typically a landlord relationship doesn't define necessarily how it doesn't define whether it's residential or commercial.
Well, a towing company, sorry,
go
it
ahead.
would be commercial.
Right, I'm just saying,
Right.
all the policy language, whatever we read, doesn't delineate that. Not on a commercial policy anyway.
What piece of property are we talking about?
the McGregor build, the old McGregor build, the shop across the highway. It also
Is there
says,
somebody in residence?
Believed to be.
Do they have a lease or are they squatters?
Well, right now,
They have the company, the towing company has a lease. As a-
Are you
for the
talking
towing.
Johnson
Yes.
family? Oh, okay.
Yep.
Now I'm with you.
the question is, the city leased it under the pretense they were running a towing business, and now it is a towing business / residence.
And zoning could play.
so it
factor
says,
in there.
usage, it says, leasee shall comply with all rules, regulations, and laws of any governmental authority with aspect to use and occupancy. Leasee shall not conduct or permit to be conducted upon the premise any business or permit any act which is contrary to or in violation of any law, rule, or regulation and requirements that may be imposed by any authority or any insurance company with which the premise is insured.
See there?
Nor will the leasee allow the premises to be used in any way which would invalidate or be in conflict with any insurance policy applicable to the building.
So insurance is a
As far as city ordinances wouldn't cover it, cause it's out of city limits.
I bet you there's city or county ordinances about what is a valid residence though. There's certain criteria, you know, it's gotta have a bathing facility. It's
It
gotta have-
does.
Oh, okay.
They got a camper in there, I think, too.
okay. Well, so we'll
That's where they're living, I think, is their
I'd
camper.
love to read the
but-
policy because I could,
How many people are in residence, do you know?
Well, they have a
5.
school bus that goes up there.
There's 3 kids, I think, 2 or 3
Okay,
kids and
know
the
that.
parents, so.
Okay.
Well, the other thing is, well, however you wanna deal with it, that's fine. One is I would probably, well, if we go out there to check on it and talk to them about it and see what our insurance says. But from a budgetary standpoint, and we were gonna increase the rent too, right? We were looking at.
yeah. It
CPI.
actually has
It's
a
a CPI index.
yeah.
right?
I don't remember, but it states exactly how
Yeah.
it increases.
But see that we haven't
Um,
signed it, are we, at this point, they're gonna have to pay back rent increase or not? Will that affect them in that manner? Are we expecting that? I can't see why that, I would expect that.
Well, we should have, well, I don't think, yeah.
Or enforce it, I think going forward, yes.
Well, we
Going
didn't.
forward, yeah.
going
I don't.
forward.
That would ultimately be a decision of the council, but my opinion is no.
There's still a state imposed embargo on collecting past rent, isn't there?
No.
They could refuse to do it.
No, the rent's not an issue. It's just just for paperwork purposes, need to make sure that we have a new lease in place.
The lease, the extension that we would do, the option, we would just, it would be effective.
For the data signing?
Well, it's still backdated in a sense, but the rent would be in effect from, say, January 1st
Yeah.
through the end of the term. It wouldn't be, I mean, it's kind of good luck trying to.
Well, I just wanna make sure that they know that, yeah, backdated, but they're in the end of the next current lease would be end of 2023.
Correct.
So it also says too, here, use of leased premises, the lessor is leasing the premises to the leasee unless he's hereby agreeing to the lease of premises for operation of a towing company in accordance with local, state, and federal laws. Any change in use or purpose of the premises other than described above shall be upon prior written consent of the lessor. Only otherwise, the lessee will be considered in default of the lease agreement.
Right, there
Okay,
you go.
That's pretty cut and dry. Okay.
So, yeah, CPI.
Is it okay?
So, But
Okay.
the other thing though is you have to make a decision, because for budgetary purposes, that's $12,000 a year that the city gets. That's relatively a new income. We haven't had that but for 2 years now, 2.5 years. But
Sure.
prior to that, I mean, so we used to get $500 a month, or $500 a year.
Okay.
Was what we got from McGregor, I think. So
So what are if it's being used as a residence, we say no, and if they
Well, it's
don't like that, then we void. We
well,
end
they
the
just have to
agreement.
vacate. I mean, we
Yeah.
won't renew the option, and then they're done.
What's the sentiment? We're gonna allow them to remain in residence, or?
That's what I'm asking you guys. Do you, if there is people living there, do we want to then violate the contract on their behalf because of that?
I don't think we should.
Well, it's in violation right now with what is outlined in the contract.
Right.
Just read. So you have to either amend it or enforce it, one of the two.
Yep. Very good word choice. Do we want to amend it or do we want to enforce the one like it is?
We haven't renewed their contract yet, have we?
Correct.
When does it expire?
May 31st of 2021.
So it's already expired 6 months ago.
And my suggestion was on the premises of insurances, if they're living there, because that could affect how we're covered. Something happens and insurance doesn't like what's going on,
They could.
they won't cover, it's a loss to the city, we're not protected. So that's first and foremost, I'd find out what our policy says about it, but it's obviously, what just read was.
They were supposed to have written permission prior to
Exactly.
any other use besides a towing company operation.
Yeah, so it'd be deemed commercial in my eyes, I view it,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
they are,
I have both those notes down, so we will.
Question, why did we not renew on time? I've forgotten that part of the story.
So, you want the long story or the short story?
Short story's good.
COVID.
I didn't do it in time.
Oh, okay.
Did you see that?
Is this the one that broke?
Yeah.
These two guys brought it both back up at different times when I asked if there was any last meeting about any unfinished things from the year, and Justin emailed me, and then David brought it up for the meeting. So
I understand how those things happen.
The contractor
I got a bunch
5
of
years
them in
ago
life.
installed
My life too.
this net that way.
unfortunately,
So
it
that's what that
happens.
looked like,
It's the way
when
of
that
life.
contractor put that in.
Okay, am I missing anything else on the agenda that
Just the executive session.
you guys want to have an executive
I
session?
think so, I'll
Okay.
go for it,
It is 10 o'clock, so let's go for
15.
15 minutes.
You want to invite somebody?
Yep, Jess, would you like to be involved? That'd be fantastic. We will reconvene at 10:15. Levi, I'll take you with me.
Alrighty, I appreciate
Is
that.
what legal?
To have a,
Yes.
Yeah.
mayor-elect in
You
place.
can have anyone you
invite-
want.
We invited him, or Nathan invited him.
Well, by the same token, since Jess is duly elected, or, sorry, not Jess, Joe is past the verified count.
But not sworn in,
Well, neither is Jeff.
Yeah.
Neither is Jess.
but it could be a person off the street going in there with us.
Sure, but I'm
Well,
saying,
you can invite him if, obviously, if you think
I'm
it's going to
just
be
saying
helpful.
Jess isn't anything that Joe isn't right now.
It's up to you guys.
Except a pertinent witness.
Did you hear that?
Oh,
Oh, that's what it's about.
Yeah, he's coming in as being a part of it.
I didn't
Okay.
understand that was a
I'm
witness.
sorry.
All right. So you got to hang out, Joe.
Yeah, that's fine, I'm just gonna read a contract.
total roof.
Yeah. I don't know if they ever had a lawyer write it or not.
Allegedly they did, but. Do you know where the city's insurance policy is?
I don't know if they have it on paper or not.
Certainly. How would I'm wondering if I can get a copy of it. I mean, digital, I would rather have it digital than,
They have to call or email AWC.
it's run through them.
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't, I'm gonna call them myself, cause I've got questions on that. That health insurance description, they gave you for the first plan, the 250 plan. There's nothing in there for the 500, and there's nothing in there for the high deductible, obviously lower cost one. So you don't know what you're being covered for.
I just went on their website and tried to print as much info as they had. so-
Right. It's just tough to make a decision, because one of them is HSA available, so I was thinking we could pay, and the cool thing about them is they're not age dependent. That's a flat rate, doesn't matter how old the employee is. So,
Yeah.
which on the private world, that doesn't work, so it could be something where we allocate X number of dollars. Part of that pays the flat out insurance premium. The balance of that goes into an HSA. And that do you know what an HSA is?
Yeah.
Okay, and then
Health
that can just,
savings account.
yeah, and it's just designed to stay in there and just accumulate. I have an HSA that I had 5 years ago, there's like $3,000 in it still. We don't contribute to it anymore, but that $3,000 sits there, and if I ever want to, I can fill out receipts and all the rest of it, submit it to them, and get reimbursed out of that account.
Yeah, if you had something that exceeded your insurance or whatever.
Right. Well, you can use it for co-pays or my prescriptions or all that kind of stuff. You can submit those. It's just like, it's a lot of paperwork for $30. So
Yeah.
I don't, but there's been times where I've gotten around to, it's like, okay, and I pile it all in and I spend an hour and fill out their bloody form and all the rest of it. I got like $900 back, because that's how over the past year I accumulated, so.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's like $1,000 still in that, it's just haven't.
Well, that's something the council should research. And
Well, that's what I wanna do, is
Put
because
together,
they're not
yeah.
going to, but
obviously.
one person can disseminate it and outline.
Yeah. Well, was my point valid that they should be participating and not dumping it on the mayor? Because they're the legislative body. They're the ones that are supposed to give him the goals and
Right.
tell him what they wanna do.
You're not wrong. But as Justin said, they haven't done that before. They had, for 30 years, this town had a mayor, and I never knew him, but they had a mayor that just simply did everything, and just basically, I got the impression if you didn't go along with them, then what was the point?
Doesn't that amount to an excuse?
It is.
Abdicating your duties just because you won't look them up and do what you're supposed to do. I mean,
Well, I think that's, do what you're supposed to do, is that, look it up, yes. And I'm new, I'm full of pep and energy and all the rest of it, so I'm in, I'm with you. But Levi's been on the board, or I always refer to it as board because that's what I was sat on. But anyway, he's been on the council for, I think, 12 years.
and he's not participating.
And he's not going to. That's not his fault, it's just, they showed up, stuff was put out in front of them, they expressed their opinion, they voted, and then they went and they showed up again 30 days later.
And that's not right.
Not if this town is gonna get ahead of itself,
Exactly.
so. I'm in agreement, and I'm in agreement with Justin that we want more revenue. I don't wanna get it from our citizens, I don't wanna be bumping. I like the garbage thing, I like having that evened out. But I want other people's money.
Chamber of Commerce needs to beat the street and find businesses.
Well, I joined them in August,
Yes,
specifically so I could be in there as part of an year and offer encouragement. I mean, we have a bank building for sale. Great, beat the street. Does Wheeling want another branch? Does STCU want another, a branch out here?
yeah.
Who just bought Cooley, Grand Cooley Credit Union, just got purchased by STCU. Although I think they have a branch no, that's Horizon that has a branch in Davenport.
Yes. Well,
So
yeah.
and I know where it is. Cooley has a branch in Creston. I don't know if anybody's in it, but they've got like a little office and a drive-through.
Yeah.
But anyway, that being said,
Yeah, isn't that the function of the Chamber of Commerce, is to bring commerce to the city?
well, it's to encourage it and entice it and bring business or revenue, but it's also the city. And by the city, it doesn't mean the city should be out there beating the drum a little bit, but it's things like James water meter. Keep moving forward.
Is Jerry still here? This is Jerry's house. He's expecting.
We're still
us to
hooked
leave,
up
go to
live,
bed.
aren't we,
Yeah.
Stephen?
Okay.
So back at 10:15,
Yep. Back at 10:15, and
public comment.
yes, the public that is left with us. Is there any additional comments?
I got an email from Stan Roth,
Okay.
and he said he was going to be unable to make it to the meeting tonight, but he just wanted us to all know that he had plans to come here.
Gotcha.
I also got an email tonight from Gabe. I don't know, I think I already told you that the job was finished and it was holding, and please forgive his attitudes. So, that was it.
Okay.
Second one was from whom again?
Gabe Garcia.
That's where the water break
With
was.
the water
I
meter.
see.
Well, thank you, and thank David and Jess again for helping out that water situation today. Appreciate it. Joe, thanks for coming.
What are we doing? So is it official? Because I think the one of the emails I saw that you wanted to try to get together on Wednesdays to have.
I don't know. I never heard anything.
I'm fine with that.
What, not hearing anything, or Wednesday?
I just
Okay.
I figured we had a lot of stuff to press through and just didn't want to skip a week if Justin's been part of that, I guess, as far as having to get all this stuff done at the end of the year just to plan on meeting then. So if you guys are good with it, yes, I would like to.
I will say this, I will try to get in touch with Abe.
I'm gonna be out of town after the 17th of December,
Okay.
so I won't be able to, well, if Stephen will show me how to connect with this machine, I can,
As long
I can
as
attend.
we can get you on Wi-Fi, all you'll have to do is hit accept.
get a what?
All you'll have to do is hit the accept button, as long as we get you on a network. I'll just
Okay.
FaceTime you.
That makes it easy.
David, Jess, what do you guys think? I mean, you're traveling again.
Fine.
No, I can try.
Okay.
Just
Levi?
is it mostly budget? Do you think?
Yeah,
Checking the
most of it.
calendar. What night is that? I'm making sure that I've got the,
Well, next
Yeah,
Wednesday,
whatever the date is.
15th, 22nd, and 29th are the next 3 Wednesdays.
okay.
But one of those,
Next week, I will not, we've got events every night at the school that week. The week after, I don't think there's anything going on.
Okay.
the last day of school is the 17th.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, for Christmas vacation.
Yeah.
yeah.
Unless we hear otherwise, let's plan on
Okay,
it.
Probably the most important one potentially would be the 29th if there's the the budget amendment and final adoption, like, we've
Okay.
had that before where it's the last week of the month.
Right.
Um,
And I figure that's probably when it will be both of them, just to get that, we can actually vote that right at the end of the year, but of course, I'd like to have them both in place and everybody happy way before then, but
Okay.
And the 29th definitely won't be a problem. We're working days because there's no school going on, so.
okay.
Would, my office is closed that week too, meet earlier?
Yeah, we definitely can.
Just throwing it out. as a
I get home 4 to 5 o'clock, so we could shoot for like a 6 o'clock meeting. It's up to you guys.
So the 15th is on,
Yes.
okay, and the 22nd,
And the 29th?
and the 29th.
Have you had the budget hearing? Is that, don't we do that? Did you have that already?
Oh no, we had a levy hearing. No,
So-
not budget.
Every Wednesday, rest of the year, 7 p.m.
You guys want to go
Six-
7 or earlier?
It was a suggestion, that's all.
7 o'clock. Let's keep it at that time. Not to be contrary to you, but just for uniformity.
Absolutely.
I could go at 6 if you wanted.
You already said 7, Stephen. Don't try to rock the boat, dang it.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Is Steven picking a fight?
No.
Trying to.
5:45.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Okay. We have a motion to
Second.
adjourn at 10:20. Motion by Justin, seconded by Levi. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
please.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes 5-0. Thanks, Levi.
Yep,
you
have
have-
a good night.
Yep.
Save that for evidence.
You have calendars here if you want from TD&H
Gotta save that for-
Christmas
Oh, I
gifts.
am, I'm gonna say both pieces. I'm
That's
gonna
yours.
get
I
the
think that
other
looks
thing
fine.
too.
I think